you gonna call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just gonna put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forums.
And this is Parker, and Tweak on those forums.
This is Jeremy, and as you know, no forums. Forums, bad.
Forums bad. All right, well, thank you for joining us today. We have a couple quick announcements before we get into the meat and potatoes.
Yum.
Last week, Parker forgot to tell us that his favorite expansion box includes a Grievous Wounds card that we talked about for about 10 minutes, and he forgot to remind us that that's actually already on its way.
To be fair...
So that's cool.
To be fair, which I know you're not, but to be fair,
With the amount that you talk about Angela, you should have been able to quote word for word everything on their cards.
I know everything on Angela's card. I do not know everything. I do not know everything on Enchantress's card. I've looked at it like twice, and I looked at Misfits a bunch of times and the Rainbow Bridge once. But I never actually. I think I scanned Grievous Wounds once and went, generic tactics card. Who cares? And I did totally ignored it.
He's holding out on us. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
You guys don't know this, but
anyway, I'm not much for spoilers, which is why I make Parker do the news section. Yep. And so that's why I didn't know about it. I don't read spoilers. That's all Parker. So anyway, moving on. That brings us to news.
So,
right. Parker takes to the news.
I got some news. So, news out of this week is we saw the A-Force affiliation card coming with She-Hulk, and it is nearly, not exactly all, but nearly all the ladies. Lots of ladies
of the
coming
night.
Out. Ladies, a whole lot of them. So basically, it's every lady in Marvel Crisis Protocol, with the exception of the bad girls, Nebula, Mystique, and was that it? Nebula, Mystique? I think that was
Storm.
Storm.
So my theory is that not bad girls, so basically not Nebula. Mystique probably not, and maybe not Enchantress. But then it's going to be, I think that Storm and like Jean Grey and Domino aren't on there yet because She-Hulk was actually supposed to come out before the X-Men, I think. And so that's why they're not on the card, because her release number, I believe, is before the X-Men. So that was they're supposed to be added to A-Force when they came out, but it's all backed up now. So, But anyway,
yep. So we know what A-Force is. It's a very large roster, a really large official affiliation. It's already gets up there to rival Avengers in terms of like sheer size and number. A lot of variable characters, obviously. It pulls from so many different factions and kind of identities, different ways to play. So one of the cool things about it is it's kind of the very first. I feel like when I look at it, it kind of looks like almost like a mercenary faction of old, where all the characters are pretty strong at the thing that they do, and there's just going to be a lot of like individual synergies to explore. So I think it'll be fun to play A-Force. Also, coming with A-Force were a couple of the tactics cards for She-Hulk, and some of them are good. But two of them were quite interesting and exceptional. The ones that are
I think they're all good.
No, I think they're all good. I said that. I think they're all good. However, I instantly gravitated towards a certain card that at one point in this game has been banned. In fact, it's the only card. It's the only one card's been banned, right? Others been restricted.
Yeah, it's just Drop
right.
Off.
So Drop Off is back, but only now for one big green lady. Anybody in A-Force now can use the card's special delivery to drop off She-Hulk if she and her carrier with flight drop her off. They both spend a power to do so, and now she can be placed within 2 after the movement of the flying character, and then she can immediately do a attack that costs 0, which of course hers is a 7-die attack that gives her power. So pretty good, I guess.
So yeah, on this one, the biggest part being that it's A-Force affiliated, and so it prevents you from doing it outside of an A-Force affiliated list, and only an A-Force character can do the dropping off, and only you can drop off She-Hulk. And so it does have a lot of restrictions, but outside of that, it's actually better than drop off because it's not size restricted.
Mhm.
But I think the big part here is that when they know who's getting the extra attack, it's a sunk cost. And like, so it's a proven value is what you're getting out of it. And I think the problem they had with drop off was interactions with characters that got to do weird things. And I've heard that the word is that Cable was the one that broke drop off, and he's not even out yet. So I think it was more that they just wanted to rein it in and prevent stuff happening in the future. And so special delivery isn't really a big surprise, but I'm surprised it still only costs 1 power.
Yeah, it's still an incredible premium. We've talked about it here on this podcast before, how incredibly strong, like as a concept, it is to have the ability to move a character that far and then for them to still get to attack. And it's just incredible activation and movement economy. Also, we've also talked about how, as a bodyguard character, She-Hulk is going to get much stronger if she gets dropped into the middle of things. And so now she literally gets dropped into the middle of things. So I think it's a really excellent card for her, and I see this doing fantastic things for that faction in general. So I'm excited for this card.
Yeah.
Other things that we know is that the A-Force get a very special card, very cool one, that now creates an effect that we have been asking for on this podcast, which is pay some power and you cannot be moved or changed on the battlefield. So folks like Web Warriors and other control factions cannot just immediately begin moving you around. So we're going to see that with A-Force. It is A-Force only, and we're excited to see something more generic that other factions could play. But the A-Force can spend power now with one of their tactics cards. The name of it is... where's my name? Where's my thing here?
Stalwart Determination.
Yeah, Stalwart Determination. So they can spend a power to not be pushed or thrown, which is pretty amazing. We also got the Agents of Smash. Now, Brandon, you could tell me that when I saw Agents of Smash, I was very instantly kind of meh about it because I didn't know how often I'll play Hulk and She-Hulk at the same time, if they'll both be within 2 of the same feature, and then I'll be interested in throwing it. Why is Agent of Smash good?
Let me enlighten you.
Okay.
Obviously, the first point I need to cover is you do not build lists the same way as my brain.
That's true.
So immediately when I found out there's 2 Hulks, the first question was, how can I make them work in the same list?
Uh-huh.
And so that's where my brain went instantly. I think it's less about the fact that you get to throw a size 5 piece of terrain, but it's more about you get to throw another thing for a set amount of power. You get to throw said thing long, and it's not an action on a character. So, like, for example, if you've got She-Hulk and Hulk, like, usually you're going to be throwing stuff around, but now you can, for example, activate Hulk, use his 2 power throw, and then if he's still got power, play Agents of Smash and then throw something else. Like, size 5 would be great, but even if you don't have a size 5 thing, you still get to throw something else. Like, it allows you an additional throw into what you're normally allowed, I think is the big part of it. Throwing size 5 is cool mainly, I think, because most people deploy terrain not thinking that you can throw it, and nobody else is going to be able to interfere with it. Nobody's going to be able to steal your terrain and throw it before you do, because it's size 5. And auto 6 damage is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the one thing.
The thing I'm most excited
for... A card that
for,
does 6 damage is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just saying I spend 3 power to do 6 damage, like, just process that in your head. It's good. Mm-hmm. Like, cost a tactics card, sure, but, like, just saying, like, hey, so-and-so has to dodge 6. Like, well, even, Peter Parker's probably taking 4 damage. Like, I don't care.
But the tax is not just the power
also,
tax, right? It's also I have to play 2 very expensive characters. I'm restricting my list a bunch.
Yeah, and they have to be close to each other, but I think if you're playing those 2, you're probably playing a Gamma Wave or any other deployment Echo, and so it's what it is. I don't think you're going to be playing this card a lot, but the thing I'm more excited for is that they've referenced Agents of Smash, and so, like, we might actually see Agents of Smash as a faction at some point.
Well, that's true. The Hulk family
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, the Hulk family in the Marvel Universe is a well-storied family. Lots of cool stories that come out of that, and World War Hulk maybe stuff. That'd be really cool. Abomination and Son of Hulk. That'd be really cool too. So
and Scar as well, right?
Yeah, Scar is Son of Hulk. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that would be really tight to see Scar in this game. Maybe even Kara Oldstrong, and they might do something like that from the Planet Hulk stuff. That'd be tight. That's his wife, that's Scar's mom. And the last A-Force card we got was A-Force Assemble. One A-Force character can spend 3 power to play it, and then while an allied character is defending against an attack this round, add 1 dice to its defense roll for each other allied character within 2 of it. So basically, you spend 3 power, and now you get an extra defense dice against every roll that round, as long as you have other characters next to you. So it rewards A-Force for having a lot of characters bunched up, but since you'll probably be having at least a special delivery, you'll probably have at least one turn where you have 2 characters next to each other. Is 3 power worth 1 defense dice all turn, for the whole turn? Maybe for someone like She-Hulk, maybe because you're bodyguarding, and She-Hulk's also gaining power a lot faster than your other characters. So maybe she'll have the ability to drop 3
it's
power.
For each other. So if you've got 3 characters in a little triangle, then they're each getting 2 defense dice. That's not bad.
When an allied character is defending...
Oh, wait.
I want to...
Yeah, it's just an allied character. So you play it and it affects all allied characters.
Oh, I thought it was just for the one character that spent the power, but it's for every character. No. Oh, that's so much stronger. Never mind. That's a reason.
It's like Dark Reign, where it affects everybody.
Oh, that's for some reason the first time I read that I was like, okay, that's really strong for making sure one of your characters stays alive that's surrounded by buddies. But this is actually, it produces, like you said, like a exponential growth. So yeah. That is not exponential, that'd be additive, right? But you get an additive growth. Everybody helps everybody. So yeah, that's fantastic. I really like that. I also, my personal style is I love bunching up my characters. I don't like them all spread out. I don't like one character out doing their own thing. It's weird. So I actually, after seeing the A-Force cards, I'm really excited about A-Force personally. I think there's some stuff, and then now I like it.
There's also. I was going to say, the average cost of the A-Force characters, obviously She-Hulk's the leader, so that's going to put a big dent in your points, but, I mean, Okoye and Black Widow are in factions. There's 2 2-pointers.
Black Cat.
And for 3-pointers...
Go ahead.
Is Black Cat confirmed too?
She is not confirmed too. It's highly likely.
Right, I was just talking about the ones we know.
Yeah.
So, and then we have Shuri, Agent Widow, Wasp, for 3-pointers, and then we've probably got Black Cats falling somewhere in that range. And then so obviously, and then Valkyrie's a great 3-pointer as well.
Yes.
So you're gonna have a big ability to play probably closer to 6 characters, even though She-Hulk is one of them. And you have She-Hulk bodyguarding for all these squishier characters is probably gonna be a nice combo.
Yeah. Also, some of these quote unquote squishy characters aren't so squishy on that A-Force the A-Force card turn.
It's true.
So it would be much more difficult to take down. I mean, imagine a Captain Marvel in binary form, and that thing's there too. She can stand on anything. Oh, and the cool bit is,
and you could also if you take Okoye, you have 2 bodyguards in there as well. So even if you're not all in a tight bunch, if you're in a line, then you can still get a bunch of those to trigger.
Also, at first you'd be like, oh, but then you could just control them. Ha 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 ha. Stalwart Determination is also a card. So. You can make a stand turn where you just don't move and you just don't die, and none of their damage is going to go where you want it to go. If you wanted to all in on that turn, you could make that happen. So, A-Force is definitely providing. I think A-Force and the cards are like a meta bending set of stuff. I think they purposely put it in there, going, we just printed. A bunch of control characters, Doctor Strange, Magneto, the Web Warriors, a lot of control-y stuff. And so here is a very cohesive, at least for one turn, anti-control kind of list that's going to get initiative with things like special delivery, lots of protectors. So it's very much. Honestly, it's funny. It's everything I like about most miniatures games is A-Force. I have a feeling the first time I play A-Force, I'm going to feel really comfy. I'm going to like it a lot. But
all right,
that's about our news.
Finish up the news.
That's our news. Yeah.
All right. that was the news. All right, so now it's going to take us into currently playing. So we're just talking about a couple games real quick. I've played several games with my Brotherhood Cabal list, and I'm liking it a lot. It's a good synergy of the two lists. So probably going to keep playing that for a bit. I've really enjoyed putting Magneto and MODOK in the same list mostly. It's great.
Who do you?
So Jeremy,
I had a quick question
Wait,
for
go
that.
ahead.
Who do you usually find yourself play? Which faction do you usually choose?
I've actually chosen Brotherhood a lot. I think I've only played, Cabal a lot. I've only played Brotherhood once, I think. But I generally, like, a lot of people complain, like, Richard's always telling me about how he takes, like, climbing gear or Asteroid M just to move Magneto around. But if you have Red Skull, you don't need any of that. So you just, use Red Skull to put him where you need him. And then, obviously, Cosmic Invigorating and having ability to Cosmic Invigorate MODOK or Magneto, depending on who's in a better position for good actions, is just like crazy good. Mm-hmm. And also, you don't really miss the affiliation because Cabal generates generally enough power to make up for the fact that you don't have From the Ruins. The biggest downside is you don't get the Magnetic Refraction or Book of Truth. So, but I think Dark Reign is easily worth it. Cosmic Invigoration, it ends up probably being more useful because you already have a lot of rerolls. But yeah, I've liked this energy a lot. I just want to get back to Brotherhood as soon as the rest of Brotherhood comes out, so I just hope that's soon.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous that the release number 63 on the Twins pack is not going to be like 20 releases away. I know that they don't come out in order necessarily, but that's got me really nervous. So Jeremy, I heard you played a cool game against an interesting list yesterday. Do you want to talk about the cool interactions you guys had?
Yeah, so I was looking across the table at the models he had kind of picked out, and there's 10 models, and one of them was Magneto, and then the rest of them were kind of a scattered mess of X-Men, and kind of just an assortment of X-Men and an assortment of new models, and also Venom. So I looked over there, and I'm like, well, I'm going to play what I want to play. I really don't care what he's got. In fact, I'm just like, well, it's going to be Magneto. I know this game. I'll do my best. I'll see what happens. So I grab my criminals. I grab my bag of goodies versus Magneto. I grab all the tactics cards I had, and I'm like, so we'll see what happens here. And sure enough, he doesn't even fucking play Magneto. It's this crazy X-Men grab bag with Venom. So it turns out Cyclops' ability is pretty damn good. And he even, I got turned around several times because I was like, okay, so he's playing X-Men. He's definitely going to use Storm as the leader. Definitely, because that's the better ability. Oh no, not when you have Venom. Cyclops is the way to go. That way Venom can hit you and heal and be an unkillable monster. Anyway, yeah, that's what we played. I played Criminals, but really, yet again, I was looking at my list, and I'm like, I really like Ronan. He needs to go somewhere and do something. At 18 points, my list was going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. At 19 points, it turned into a criminal list because the numbers just made more sense to me. I was kind of throwing everything everywhere, and I had a lot of control on the board. It was a really good list. I liked what it was doing, and because I didn't really respect the list enough that he was playing to get, I guess, turn on my serious mode until Venom hit me about 2 turns in a row, and I'm like, oh shit, this is serious. And at that point, it was a little late. I was losing too many models and losing too much momentum, and ended up losing that game. He did really great with that mess of models he had, and I saw what he was doing a couple turns in. It's pretty cool. I have respect for what Cyclops does. I do not have respect for Cyclops as a person, as a human being. I still think he's a piece of shit. So, so that's what I've been playing.
Nice. All right, so that's going to take us on to hobby projects. Quick note from me: John has recently painted most of my terrain, and combined with the terrain I have already painted, both pieces of it. Now I have enough for fully painted table, so most of our battle reports now are going to be fully painted, which is nice.
Hooray!
Jeremy, is it true that you're once again painting the models?
I am. And you know what's really fun? Painting tiny, tiny faces of Wolverine. It's actually so fucking stupid. Like, I'm like, how small can his face possibly be? Well, smaller than you think. So I'm working on painting that new batch that just came out, I don't know, a month ago. Was it a month? Has it been that long? Magneto's.
Yes, it has been over a month.
Ugh. So yeah, I'm sitting here staring at Wolverine. He's almost totally done. Sabretooth is pretty close, and the rest of them are on their way. So I'll have all those done in a few days.
Cool. Parker, how's your painting coming?
It's actually coming along quite well. From the person who paints my stuff, but yeah, I've got everything. No, the X-Men are currently sitting on the shelf. I can't. Those are the only thing that I haven't get to paint yet. So those will be the last thing. But honestly, I am so excited for Angela. Whenever Angela hits, I may actually go buy paints so that I can make Angela happen faster. That's Angela.
I'll mail you a bag of my COVID paints if you want.
Angela might get me off my ass and get me to paint because, man, she's so pretty. And actually, she's a model. I see myself playing that model so much. I do want to actually paint it. Like, I like the idea of playing Cabal or criminals because I painted my MODOK. Like, that's cool. So I am really excited to play a lot of Angela. I'm excited to play Angela. I'm actually considering buying the Thor and the Asgardians too. Because I could
Nice.
I could flip the coin and have Angela switch sides in as Guardians of the Galaxy. But
yeah.
So I don't know.
That's the only news I have.
I don't know about Brandon's feelings about this, but I am so excited to fucking kill Angela. I'm telling you, like murdering Parker's Angela is a game win. It doesn't matter if you actually win the game.
I cannot wait to Crimson Bands of Sidorak her every turn and never actually damage her.
Yeah.
Just activate her every turn with Crimson Bands.
Oh.
And Parker will just be like beside himself with rage. He'll make so many fingernail marks on that table.
That's yeah, I'm sure when I watch her get sadly controlled across and she doesn't get to do all of the stuff. But I feel all I want to do is I want to see her flippy dip all over the table once, and then I'll be satisfied. I don't need her to do it every game. But
Jeremy, just let me know if you need to borrow Doctor Strange so you can make sure she never does anything.
Curious note there, Doctor Strange lovers. You got to get it right the first time because you can't re-roll against her. So just so you know, if you go ahead,
no, it'll work out.
If you raw,
it'll work
if
out.
you raw,
I'm gonna build a list.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be like. It's going to be Dark Reign Cabal with Doctor Strange, just to make sure it happens.
Well, how would that?
Oh, no, because he wouldn't get the rerolls. All right.
Nope.
No, you don't get rerolls. You don't reroll.
I guess
on
you
her.
just
She can't be.
Yeah, you can't reroll at all.
Magneto just needs to use his card and throw like 30 dice at her in one go.
Oh,
Wham!
yeah, you could
Right,
definitely throw her.
So maybe I'll just do X-Men and just have everyone hand Strange power so he can keep Crimson banding.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, maybe that's the plan then.
There's
nothing. So
there's absolutely nothing I can do against that. I've lost. I'll have nothing.
Okay. So that's going to move us into our main topic today. We're going to be rating the Cabal faction with a small asterisk. So when we're doing the ratings, we're only going to rate each character once. And so we've divided them up into factions based on theme and I guess priority of faction they're in. There's so many characters that are in multiple factions now that there's actually only 5 characters in Cabal as their primary faction. And those characters are Baron Zemo, MODOK, Red Skull, and Ultron. So those will be the 5 characters we're rating today. All of the other Cabal members will be rated with one of the other factions they're in.
That was 4 characters. We're adding Crossbones in there, right?
Did I not say Crossbones? Yeah, Crossbones as well. He's so lonely. Yeah. He just wants to be rated.
He's also in Criminal Syndicate, but we're putting him in here today.
He is, yeah. Exactly. He's busy robbing banks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so starting, we're just going to start at the top. How did I sort this? These are in no particular order.
By height?
Do you guys have a preference on where we start? By height. Sure. Let's, I'm going to rate these, or I'm going to sort these differently, and then we'll get started. Let's just go alphabetically today. All right, so starting with Baron Zemo. or Helmut Zemo. Is that how you say that,
Yeah.
Parker? Helmut?
Helmut.
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 Yeah. Zemo. All right, so starting with offense, let me pull up Zemo real quick. Baron Zemo is a 3-point character with 5 health on both sides, movement long, size 2, defense is 3/3/4. Has a 5 dice strike that bleeds on wilds. Steel Rush is a range 3, 6 might, 2 cost attack that's physical. After the attack is resolved, you get to advance medium, and then again bleeds on a wild. Cool actions he has are Charge, Counter Strike, Master Swordsman, which is when targeting with an attack or is targeted by a physical attack, this character may use this power. If the enemy character is within 2, you may reroll any number of attack or defense dice. And then Strategic Genius, this character and allies within range 2 can reroll 1 die when attacking or defending. So, does anybody want to say anything about Baron Zemo on the offense specifically?
The second turn, he gets hot.
Go ahead.
The first turn, he is not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you think the charge gets him in there pretty quickly?
The charge is perfect. It's the exact builder you need. You charge in there, he gets power from the sword strike that he uses, and then you can potentially use his bigger attack if you want to, and then move a bunch.
Because of his mobility, he definitely feels like he tends to get more attacks off than your average character. So, like, gaining the action for charge is great, but also, like, advancing from Steel Rush is a good way to get into position to do different things. The number of rerolls he can end up doing throughout a game will get him a lot more power as well, because his attacks are a lot more efficient than they seem to be.
I feel like when you read Zemo's card, offensively, he's like a PlayStation. He only does everything. You know, like, he's got so many different things. The only thing he doesn't have is an energy attack. But otherwise, he's just got all the things you want to see on an offensive character. He's going to have the initiative with his speed long and the charge. He's going to have multiple attacks. He's usually going to have power to do, a combination of different things. So he's got everything you want to do to have a first strike kind of melee character.
Mm-hmm. This character abuses the multiple reroll mechanic, probably more so than anybody else, just because it's innately built into himself.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to reroll with Master Swordsman and then also reroll for Strategic Genius. The biggest hindrance to this character's damage potential are skulls. So, like, he's pretty impressive for the fact that he's just basically a 5 dice strike machine. Not having an alternate damage type is pretty big. Not having a big dice attack particularly. Like, Steel Rush is 6 dice, which is good, but you're probably not going to Steel Rush and Master Swordsman. I guess sometimes it can happen. But yeah, he doesn't have like a 7 dice attack. He doesn't have a throw. That's probably the biggest hindrance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at...
But he's very consistent. He does surprisingly good damage.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his sword strike, it's a 5 strength, but with his rerolls, it's really more like a 6. I mean...
Yeah, sure. There's very rarely going to be a time you don't get to reroll at least 1 die. But there's also the times like you can't reroll dice, like we've talked about. Bleed's pretty nice, and he does it often enough to generally inflict damage with it, so that's also pretty handy. Parker, do you have anything to add on Baron Zemo?
He's one of my favorite characters of the game because I love characters that can stand way back. He's a fencing master, right? He stands way back and just waits and then lunge, and then he's up in your face, stabbing all your mans.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what are we thinking about numbers for Baron Zemo? Jeremy, I think you've probably played him the most.
So a baseline character is like a 3, right? Didn't we say that? Or is that what we normally start? 3 or 4?
On offense, yeah. I mean, if you're basically bare bones with nothing that you add to it, I'd probably start around 3.
So charge is going to give
it's like 5 dice strike.
Yeah, charge gives you the 1. So you're say at a 3. So that's a 4. He gets a reroll, so that's a 5. His sword strike is attached to a charge, so there's a 6. Man, he's at least a 6 in my book. For 3 points, he's probably better than that.
Yeah, well, the point cost doesn't really come into the total offense. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree at all. Rerolls are pretty awesome. And like we said, he can turn it up a little bit when he goes for the full rerolls with the 6 dice attack. really the hindering factor for him is only physical damage.
And that's not even
But
counting.
God, he's so mobile.
That's not even counting
He attacks so
Counter-Strike.
much.
That's offensive potential as well.
Yeah, I'm okay with a 6. I'd probably lean more towards a 5, but I think 6 is justified. Parker, do you have an opinion?
I was going to place him right at a 6 too. I think that's more than fair. One of the things about him that is not to be understated is, while he does have the rerolls, unless he's been hit by mystic attacks, his ceiling for defense isn't that high, and so I've seen him go down pretty quick as well. Like, he lunges in there very well, and he definitely stabs, once, but unless he gets very, very lucky with his dice, which, he can fix them, and your opponent gets unlucky, and he just takes something down, and you're like on a one-on-one situation, he's probably going to get smushed in return. I know this is not really the defensive stat we're talking about, but I feel like there's a cap to his potential damage, and that's why I don't think he reaches higher than a 6, but I think he's definitely a 6 because of his very strong consistency. 6.
Yeah, I think I would put him at 6 as like a hard ceiling for him.
Yeah, he's not a 7.
He doesn't have the extreme burst. Yeah, and he doesn't have the ability to do like a crazy amount all at once. Like, anyone can spike to like silly numbers, but because of he relies so heavily on rerolls, his spikes are not usually going to happen because he doesn't have a way to like add dice. He doesn't have a way to like do auto damage with like a throw. So I think 6 is definitely the high side. I'd probably lean more towards a 5, but I think 6 is fair.
Yeah, like he also has,
and that's primarily the tiebreaker is definitely that he's almost always going to get 2 attacks because he's either going to steel rush and move in to strike you, or he's going to charge in, strike you, or like charge in and then steel rush and then move on to another target. Like, he's so mobile that he's going to get to attack whoever he wants. So moving on to defense, he's obviously not exceptional at defense, but he's pretty good. He got a 33 on the defensive matrix, which puts him about in the middle. So 10 hit points, 3s across the board. He has Counter-Strike, Master Swordsman, and Strategic Genius. Master Swordsman doesn't come up a huge amount because it has to be a physical attack and it has to be within range 2. But if that does happen, that's nice. And then he always gets the 1 reroll. He's very vulnerable to collateral because he doesn't get to reroll against dodges. Jeremy, do you have anything to say about his defense?
I would give him 1 above par. I mean, he's not great.
With the rerolls?
Yeah. He can die.
Yeah, I think a 4 is pretty fair. Yeah, he's not known for survivability. Parker, thoughts?
I was
Numbers?
going to say exactly 4 for precisely the same reasons. He doesn't. He fixes just a little bit, but it is just very marginally above average.
Okay. So moving on to support. His only support ability being the Strategic Genius, which is pretty cool. But with how fast he is, he tends to kind of be on his own. I have built lists with the concept being that Zemo's just going to follow people around. I don't know that it was good, but it was fun.
One of the things that the Strategic Genius often interacts with the game is because his range is so deceptively long. He can be used as kind of an interesting wait and see kind of piece where he can be behind 1 or even 2 characters that are more frontliners, and if he's behind and within 2, they're receiving passive bonuses for getting shot at or attacked, and then he can launch in. Even if somebody's trying to attack the person in front of him with a ranged 3 or 4, he can actually still lunge past them all the way to them after they've activated and maybe wasted a few damage on his rerolls. So I think it's kind of cool that he can help a buddy until he's ready to go strike, but then after he's in the mix, he may never get to buff somebody else again until the later stages of the game.
Yeah, the one of the surprising things I think a lot of people don't expect him to do is if you run off to a side to collect an extraction, you can do something like move charge back into the middle to go stand by a buddy, or even if you're fighting someone on a flank, you can steel rush to move away and then still charge towards someone else, and so you're covering like just a silly amount of distance and still getting 2 attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to stand by a friend. And if he's in Cabal, it's pretty easy for that to end up happening because he still gets power when he causes damage. And so he only needs to generate 1 power from his normal strike to get that going every turn. So I think I'm sitting at about a 3 for support because Strategic Genius is pretty cool. It doesn't come up a lot, but I can be talked down to a 2.
So I'll make this point. I think he's a little above that, and this is why. He can be within 2 of 2 or even 3 characters, which 2 is a little bit easier and more standard. And for free, all of them, including himself, can re-roll a die on attack and defense. That's a lot. Now, the caveat to this, which is the same for attacking, he can be sitting on 10 power and not be able to spend it to help anyone do anything sometimes. So that's a problem. Is it worth 1 or 2? I think Strategic Genius is 2 bumps above 0 or, 3 or whatever. So I put him...
Well, the average person has 0 support.
Okay.
So.
And where we put him?
We put most faction leaders around 3 just for their leadership ability. And that's pretty much where I was trying to put him.
So I would say
maybe a little below that.
That's 3 is fine because he doesn't move anybody, which is a problem. Moving in this game is a big deal. So yeah, I would say 3 is okay.
Parker, do you want to talk us down to a 2?
I actually would say a 2 is more appropriate, and that's just because if a 3 is a leadership trait, most leadership traits have incredible range, and the characters with the leadership traits are getting it passively across the whole board. And the fact that you're only getting a party buff, even though it's a very efficient party buff because he costs no power and it just happens when they're around, the fact that it's around just that 2-inch range of him, and he's so fast. I think that's how they balanced his ability. Put this on somebody who likes to stand still with a ranged weapon, and it would probably feel a little oppressive because you can form a little bunker where everybody gets rerolls. But the fact that he's jumping out and doing his thing and may never come back to help his buds, I think it's probably more like a 2. Even if it's operating on 2 or 3 people, it is just 1 reroll also. So I think it's probably a 2. But that's just because realistically how the ability...
I just needed the 2, Parker.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were a 3, Brandon. My bad. I'm sorry.
Are you a 2, Brandon?
No, you're fine.
Did you pick 2?
Yeah, I said I think I'm leaning towards a 2.
Okay, so let me give you one more.
I feel like he's right.
I've got one more for you.
No, hold on. I'm just going to say my point, then you can go. I do like that you can affect a lot of people with it, but I think if you are building a bunker of Zemo rerolls, there are better bunkers to build, and it is going to lose you the game on scenario. So, it's better than most faction abilities, but it's in such a small area, and all the faction abilities are usually board-wide stuff. It's obviously better than the Defender's faction ability, but it's going to, throughout the game, probably do less, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, you go ahead with your argument.
I was just getting ready to say Wakanda and their faction ability. However, you nailed it already with the small. Yeah. It's small, but it's also free.
Yeah, it's not free. It costs 3 points.
Fair enough. 2 it is.
Okay, I'm gonna put it at 2.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Because if you compare it to the Asgard faction ability, yeah, it's better on an activation to activation basis if you assume you're getting it, but it's not going everywhere. You have to pay a penalty in positioning to take advantage of it.
Correct.
So next up is going to be control. He has absolutely 0 control. So he gets a 2 on support. And moving on to control, he has no control, so he's going to be a 1. Unless you guys want to argue that bleed is control in some way.
Nope.
All right. I think this guy's pretty obviously a skirmisher.
Yeah.
Any arguments?
I think he's
kind
of the skirmisher. I think he's kind of the definition of it. Yeah.
I think he's actually the example we gave of a skirmisher in the notes. Yeah. Here, actually, I'm curious. I want to double check.
He's a long charger, man. That's about the best you can get.
Black Widow is the skirmisher that we chose, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, he's definitely a good example. So we have a 6-4-2-1 skirmisher for 3 points. So let's just start with the numbers. I'm going to open with a 6. Who wants to argue about a 6 with me?
Whew. I don't know that I'll say 6 because every time you pick him, he feels good. I don't know that there's almost always a better choice, but if you can't think of one, put him. You're going to be good.
I don't know that there's always a better choice, but it's very seldom you're going to take Zemo and regret it.
Yep.
But there's probably you're not going to take Zemo and be like, Zemo won me the game because Zemo's overpowered. Like, that's not going to happen.
Never.
Zemo might win you the game because he's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's because you put him in a position to succeed, and he did his job. Like, that's what Zemo's going to do. Zemo is one of the most consistent characters in the game because the majority of his abilities are based off static effects. Like, I'm going to charge, or I'm going to steel rush and move after. Like, and then he's consistent also because he brings dice rerolls to the game, and so he's gonna prevent you from rolling absolutely bad all the time, and so that's gonna be nice. And so he's just gonna be pretty consistent. Parker, give me a number.
I'm actually going to. I've personally tried to put Zemo in all kinds of places. That he's just a Cabal character, and I've tried to put him in most lists that I've made. I think when Jeremy asked me favorite character for one of the Daily Bugle things, it was episode like 6 or 5 or 6 or something like that. I said Zemo, and I love the passive nature of a lot of his stuff, and the stuff that does cost, he always seems to have it because of how very consistent he is. I love characters that I go, okay, I really need to do 3 damage way over there right now. Oh, well, Zemo's here. Like, I got it. I got it. I really like that kind of consistency. I value that very highly. I actually put him, I was thinking a 7.
I think 7 is too high, but we're overruling you anyway at a 6.
I'm comfortable with you overruling me. I think it's personal bias about consistency of the dice.
Yeah, that's probably true.
If he didn't die so damn easily.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah. He is a little squishy. So that moves us on to the next character, Crossbones. Or Brock Rumlow.
Brock.
Brock is a... I didn't know that was his first name until
Brock
just now.
Chisel Cheese.
So
in the movie, they always just call him Rumlow.
Yeah, well, because he's military. So
yeah.
All right. So Crossbones is a 3-point character. He's 6 health on both. 6 health on the front. He's only 5 health on the back. I thought he had 12 hit points.
Nope.
Oh well. So he is speed short, size 2. Defensive stats are 4-2-2. Oh my god. I'm so shocked.
Whoa.
I didn't realize he was also 2 on Mystic. Wow. Yikes. He has a standard 5-dice strike. He has a range 3 attack called Overpower. It's 5 dice, costs 2. Place this character within 1 of the target after the attack is resolved. On a wild, he gets to throw someone of size 2 or less before damage short. He has an active power called Haymaker, adds 3 dice to his next attack roll, costs 4 power. A reactive power called Inert to Pain, he reduces damage suffered by 1 to a minimum of 0. And then aggressive, after an attack during his character is resolved, if he suffered damage, he may advance short towards the attacking character. He is the same on the back, except 5 hit points. I swear we have played him at 6 hit points multiple times. That resulted in him getting to attack while dead. I'm sure that has happened. Okay. So offense. Let's start with offense, as we always do. Jeremy, tell me why this guy is good at offense.
All right. So as soon as you get 4 power, I've tried him so many times, man. Okay. He has the ability to spend a shitload of power and hit you really hard. However, it's going to take some charging and some moving and stuff to do. Will your opponent let you do it? I don't know. Maybe. He has a lot of output possible. Where does that put him? Are we doing numbers yet? You want a number?
I mean, he's pretty straightforward. He's got 2 offensive things that aren't his basic strike, but I'm fine with numbers. Yeah, go for it.
So what is it? 3 plus 5. He can hit for an 8. And that's what he does, and it costs him, Jesus, 4? Ugh.
8 dice attack for 4.
For a little
He
guy,
will
he's
get-
probably gonna.
He will get the power back if you use his strike to do it, though. So it's not like you might get some return on that investment. Maybe.
Keep in mind he has no dice mods. He doesn't have like Pierce or anything. So an 8 dice attack's doing like 5 hits. So yeah, you'll get some power back, but you're not going to generally replenish your power you spent on.
He isn't.
I mean,
he isn't Cabal though, and it's one more fist to throw into, the big reroll tactics card. That name is for some reason eluding me right now.
Yeah.
So anybody
Dark
who
Rain.
can throw 8
Rain.
dice at something at all is got to be,
Yeah.
it's above par because he can throw 8 dice at something. That's legit. A 5. That's my number. Throwing out a 5. He doesn't get any modifiers. He doesn't get anything special. He can move. I mean, he can throw if you decide to do his overpower, but then he doesn't get power for that. So good luck. Good luck with your next thing.
But more importantly, if you do the Haymaker overpower, it has a very high likelihood of throwing. But the size 2 restriction seems very penalizing nowadays. Like, there's a lot of not size 2 people. And a lot of them like to get into melee with crossbows. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got to be at least a 6 because he can roll 8 dice.
Dude, I don't know, man.
The more I look at it... So the biggest problem to his offense is his survivability, and I know we don't really rate them together, but this is probably more of an overall argument. But he spends so much power on Inert to Pain that he usually doesn't get to Haymaker very often. And if you're not if you're not Inert to Paining, he's dying. Like, he's not survivable enough without the damage reduction to stick around. And aggressive is nice. I think aggressive is underrated, but I don't know. I think I was going to start at a 6. I'm probably still going to say 6, but I'm going to let Parker talk me down to a 5. So Parker, why don't you go ahead? Give me your number and tell me why.
Oh, number and tell you why. I would actually say 5. And the reason why is...
that was easy.
And the reason why is I don't know, maybe you guys who have played him more than I have, or seen him on the table more than I have, can tell me how often Haymakers are actually going to happen. But I think Haymaker is going to happen very few times a game, like 2, 3, maybe. And if it's only 2 or 3 times, and it's 8 dice, but he doesn't get Dark Rain thrown in there, there's no way he's ever putting off the kind of consistency that Zemo has. I feel like he's the opposite of Zemo, whereas he's slow, he's plotting, and he's very inconsistent. So you can't count on anything, except at least once or twice. Likely, you'll see 8 dice, but man, I think he's a 5. I think the opportunity cost is too high, and he's not consistent enough.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely the opposite of Zemo.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you get to use Haymaker about 3 times a game, but unfortunately 2 of those are immediately after getting dazed. So, because usually what happens is eventually they just dogpile you because the little attacks don't get through. Because, if you're doing like the auto fire 4 dice attacks, like he's rolling the same amount of dice as they are and takes 1 off the top, so he's not taking anything. So usually end up getting like, okay, here comes the Omni Beam, and he just gets like 5 damage goes through all at once. And so you don't spend for damage reduction because you're going to get dazed anyway. And so you end up picking up like 5 power up again next turn, and then you're like, okay, well now here comes the Haymakers. And so that's usually when you get your next 2 Haymakers. You usually get like 1 on the front side, unless it's just everything's going great for you. So yeah, I think we're going to put him at a 5. If he had like a more consistent throw, it might get him higher, but as is, I think that's where he's at. Moving on to defense, he rated a 32 on our scale, which is just barely slightly below average, but that's because he's got multiple 2s in his defensive stats. But, damage reduction takes the edge off of that pretty well. So, it's pretty obvious. He has damage reduction that you have to spend power for. That's his defensive stats. His stats are very bad, actually. 11 hit points, 422 is kind of meh. Jeremy, what do you think his number is?
Because he's not a 3 across the board, so he doesn't get anything. I mean, I give him injured to pain
yeah, I think he starts at like a 2 because he's got multiple vulnerabilities, but the damage reduction obviously kicks up something. Like kicks him up to at least average, so probably above average.
I've been playing Kingpin a lot, and Kingpin's a 7 health with basically the same ability. And he lives kind of forever as long as you're managing it correctly. And he could do that as well. I mean, I'd give him 2 points for that Enter to Pain because it can be 0, and a lot of times it is. And it's kind of a machine. Once you get 1 power on him, he's always reducing it, which puts his health pool in the, somewhere around 10 on the front. I mean, it's a lot.
Mm-hmm. The big thing is being able to stop stuff like bleed and collisions. Like, because normal damage reduction, you can't stop the 1 point of damage, but this you can. And so it ends up saving even more damage than normal damage reduction would.
I think the problem...
unfortunately, it costs more power.
Yeah. The problem lands with, 2 big laser beams, because he's only got a 2 there. And I mean, you're dead. 2 big laser beams, you're dead.
Yeah. So what do you think, 4?
I'll give him a 4, and it'll go either way. It can go down from there. A 3 I could live with, too. But I think Enter to Pain is really, really good.
Parker?
I would say 4, just because he has to pay for it. And man, 2 weaknesses are bad.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in agreement with a 4. So moving on to support, Crossbones' favorite stat. He gets a 1. And control, his second favorite stat. So he has a spending attack that has a throw on a wild, and unless you're spending 6 power for it, is kind of a coin flip. I guess I'm going to give him a 2 on control. Do you disagree, Jeremy? He's technically better than the worst in the game.
Okay. I can live with a 1 or a 2. Either way, I don't care.
Well, he's better than a 1 because he has some control, but he can only throw size 2 people, and it's going to cost at least 2 power, and it's still risky.
Is there a way to give him like a 1.1, because that's what I feel like he gets?
No. 1.9. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to round it up to a 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So is this character a brute?
Yes. Technically.
I think he is.
He is.
I mean, you could argue that he's a scrapper, but I think he's a brute. He's more about just wading into combat and hitting things, right, and then just kind of seeing what happens.
Yeah.
He's not really there to deal huge damage.
If you ignore him, do you know how long it takes him to get to you?
Yeah,
that's true.
Oh, who's that guy over there? I'll push
him.
This
is the most...
Get him out of here.
I think the problem is you guys were rating Black Dwarf like he was Crossbones. And Black Dwarf is actually good.
True.
That's true.
So Black Dwarf, for 1 more point, has 3 more hit points, and an extra energy defense, and an extra mystic defense, and doesn't have to spend power for his damage reduction.
And it's much better attacks.
Yeah, and he has a throw that's not random, and he has 6 dice base, and he can roll 8 dice base. Okay, anyway. So, we have a 5-4-1-2 brute for 3 points. Jeremy, tell me what his overall score is.
What did we rate Black Dwarf?
A 4, I believe, because you guys are idiots. Yes, he got an overall 4.
And Black Dwarf should be at least a 5. So we're going to give him like a 3.
3, okay.
I hate him.
Parker,
it's personal.
Do you agree with the 3, or do you think he gets higher?
No,
it's personal. All right.
I actually, I actually was going to give this guy a. We're talking about overall rating, right?
Yeah.
I actually wanted to give this guy. It's weird, but I want to give him a 2. I feel he's been, and this is why. I'll tell you. I want to give Crossbones a 2. He's been completely outclassed by 3-point characters in this game. I think he has serious like first edition itis, where it's like he was in the box, so you had to play him. But as soon as other characters came out, like they're clearly superior in every way to him. Like even if you just do the 3-point bracket and you just do brutish characters, there are so many more. And then you can go up in points and down in points and continue to have better characters than Crossbones. So I think he's a 2.
You can't find a 2-point character that does what Crossbones does. You can't.
I don't think
you cannot find a slow-moving character that's terrible at 2 points.
That's true. That doesn't exist in the game yet. But as soon as they print even
Toad is fast.
What's that?
I said even Toad is fast.
Right, but I'm saying as soon as they print a stocky 2-point character that is like Crossbones, they will eventually, and when they do, it'll be better than Crossbones. And so that's what I'm sure of. I think Crossbones was
okay.
At the At the start of the game, he was low on the curve, and now he's just abysmally behind the other characters.
Okay, I get it. I hear what you're saying. You don't have to keep saying it. I'm going to disagree. There are... I understand your point, and I don't think your point is misfounded. But, because I'm of the opinion that Drax completely invalidates Crossbones in a vacuum. Like, Drax is strictly better than Crossbones. But he's not in the factions Crossbones is in. And a lot of the stuff for those factions is very specific on the characters in them. Because, Crossbones is in Criminals, which means he gets the criminal bonus, and he gets to play all the criminal cards, and he gets bonuses from Black Rain. There are reasons to play Crossbones. They're just not printed on his card. They're printed on other cards. So that's all I'm saying, is that you need to take that into account a little bit when we're rating the character. Yeah, in a vacuum without a faction behind him, he's definitely on the weak side of the cheap brutes. That's unquestionable, I think. But I don't think he's completely invalidated yet.
No, and it's because I always forget that he's a goddamn criminal, and he needs to be in my list just in case I get fucking pigeonholed in some sort of stupid mess.
Yeah. I think I say this a lot, I think losing slowly is an advantage. Like, being able to take a character and say, well, at least I won't get one-shotted. Like, this is that character. Like, you can just put him on a flank on his own, and he'll be there until turn 3 or 4, fighting their 3-point flanker, and you'll probably not win, but you're not going to lose quickly enough to cost you the game. He's going to stick around long enough to contest it long enough to keep you in the game. And sometimes he'll win. Like, it's not like he's guaranteed to lose. There's plenty of 3-point characters he can fight one-on-one and do okay against. Especially if they're sending, like, a 2-point character. Like, Black Widow goes over there. It's like, well, Black Widow's not going to take out Crossbones. Like, it's not going to happen. He might not kill her very quickly, but he's going to be alive. So, I think that's fine. I was actually going to say 4, because I think Black Dwarf is criminally underrated, as I've said before. But probably get talked down to a 3 with Jeremy, and we'll round up Parker's 2 to a 3. I think the main reason he gets played is faction reasons, not for, reasons on his card. So moving on, that brings us to MODOK, the Brain Boiler. I think that's what his subtitle is.
No, not at all.
I was playing against Jason, and I just keep saying, all right, here comes the brain melty every time I attack his characters. And he's like, stop it. Oh, he has a name.
Yeah.
George Tarleton. Tarleton. Tarleton?
Tarleton, yeah.
Huh. Tarleton.
Yeah.
That's a weird fucking name for this guy.
Yep.
George. I guess he kind of looks like a George.
If he should have an acronym, if he has a name, it's actually MODOK is an acronym. The mechanized organism designed only for killing.
Designed only for killing, yeah. Okay, this is going to be a mouthful, so get ready. MODOK is a 5-point character with 10 health on the front, 4 health on the back, speed short, size 4, defensive stats are 2, 3, 3. His primary attack is Psionic Blast, range 4, 6 dice, Mystic, cost 0. Gain power for damage, and has set power. Doomsday Chair, which is range 4, physical, 7 dice, cost 3. Whirling Blades, which is after the attack resolves, you do another Doomsday Chair attack without paying the power. The additional attack must target someone within 2 of the original target, and does not have the Whirling Blades rule, which causes bleed on a wild. Bow to the Will of MODOK is choose an enemy character within range 3. Advance that character short. Cannot be affected by his power more than once per turn. So he can do it multiple times. Cost 2. Imbecile, all the world is a weapon to MODOK. Active power costs 2. Choose an interactive terrain feature of size 3 or less within range 3 and throw it long. Usable once per turn. P-Brain, MODOK's genius is infinite. Reactive power cost X. After this character rolls attack or defense dice, it may spend an amount of power for this superpower. For each power spent, reroll 1 die in the attack or defense roll. And Psionic Force Field. When defending against attacks, the character changes its wild results to blanks. And then on the backside, he's exactly the same, except he loses Psionic Force Field and only has 4 hit points. So, that being said, let's talk about MODOK's offense.
10.
Here we go. This has been a long time coming, guys.
Yeah.
10! It's not a 10. You're wrong. You're objectively wrong. Shut up.
9.
However, this might be one of the highest we've had since our first rating. Oh, we've had one other person rated that high.
Mm-hmm. The Corvus.
Well, you
Blade.
go.
Okay.
You go, Brandon.
So, Me go?
You go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go first. Since I'm obviously the resident MODOK expert. Okay, I've said that out loud now. It's definitely not true. Jeremy's definitely played MODOK more than me. But the trick to MODOK is to just start the boulder rolling. Once you get it moving and it starts going downhill, you pretty much just let it go. It's all about getting power on MODOK because, much like we talked about with Haymaker on Crossbones, it turns into, spending power to reroll his attack dice is good because it ends up paying itself back. Well, it's definitely true with this attack. Because with Psionic Blast, it's a high base dice, and sap power combined with the extra dice with the rerolls, he'll usually gain more power than he spends, especially in Cabal. Like, for example, I was attacking Wolverine in the last battle report we did. And I spent 4 power to reroll and gained 7 power from the attack. Because I sapped power 3 times, did 3 damage, and then gained another power for dealing damage. And I was like, this seems fair. And he's like, and the next attack's like, I'll reroll all of it. Like, it's whatever. So once you get the ball moving, it becomes a much greater force than in its base. If you start a turn with MODOK with just 1 power, you've probably messed up some way. So it's about keeping power on him for later, because once he starts using his Psionic Blast and spending power for rerolls, it just keeps running. You just keep replenishing your power with your attacks, and so that's really where it comes down. Is you need to get that happening. Next up, obviously the ability to throw terrain at people. It's basically just 4 damage for 2 power, which is just silly amazing. His Doomsday Chair is potentially amazing if you can get it to use it in the right situation. If you have 6 power starting with him, you can do 4 7 dice attacks if everything lines up perfectly. And so that's obviously a huge amount of output. And then if you have any more power on top of that, or like you're playing in Cabal and you're going to start gaining power every time you deal damage, you can start re-rolling a decent amount of those dice as well. And this is where we talked about like Zemo bunkers happen, where it's like MODOK can roll enough dice to make those attacks worth it. Battle Will MODOK is kind of offensive, but not really. You pretty much setting up other people by moving people into good positions for you. So yeah, that's pretty much his offense. Does anybody else have anything to say about MODOK and his offense? Are we ready for numbers?
The only thing I would say is that MODOK's one of those characters that looks like he only does one thing, and then when you activate him, he'll have 4 or 5 activations worth of damaging effects will occur before he's done. He is deceptively active every turn.
You definitely get that feeling when he's activating and he says something like, oh, and then now I'm going to do this. And you're like, he's not done yet?
Yeah.
What is happening? I don't understand. It's like, how is he not finished? Okay, so Jeremy, why don't you give me a number for MODOK's offense that isn't 10, because you would be wrong.
11. I mean, here, so...
Off the podcast.
So I didn't really get to say my
You're
piece.
on thin ice, dude!
Shut the fuck up! So he does have a basic 6 Mystic attack, which is freaking phenomenal. Gain power with rerolls, with sap power. Doomsday Chair, you talked about it. 8 at least, as like it's at least an 8 because he has range 4. Good lord, I'm at an 8.
Okay, I am willing to accept the at least an 8 argument. I'm also going to say 8. I could be talked up to 9, but I think 8 is probably more correct because everyone's had those games where like you just can't get the ball moving.
I have.
Well,
MODOK can do that.
If you play MODOK a lot, like you have those games where he just kind of doesn't do anything, just because you just can't get the initial damage to get enough power to start re-rolling all your attack dice.
If you flub both rolls, you're gonna have a rough game. That first,
yeah, exactly. And so much of him is getting early success, and it just builds to later success. In the right situation, I could see a 9, but I think that's more of a product of like Cosmic Invigoration or Dark Reign applying more to him than he is base.
Don't we have to apply his cards, though? We've used everybody else's tactic cards how we want to.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm saying I'm happy with an 8, but I could possibly be talked up to a 9. That's what I'm saying.
Parker, crunch the numbers. What do you got?
Yeah, Parker, give us a number.
I would in terms of like possible output and his ability to just keep going, he's the Energizer Bunny. I think like that's the good like analogy for him on the board. He doesn't go super fast or far, but doesn't go super fast, but he does go very far, and it's just over and over and over. What's funny about him is I have seen him so many times on the table, been like, well, shit, I'm out of things to do. There's no terrain around me. Everyone nearby is dead or dazed. So I guess I'll just stop right now on 7 power. And you're just like, God, that seems that seems so strong, right? The fact that he can do all of that and not even blow every single gasket, I think he's deserving of a 9 for that reason. And the only reason why he's not a 10, in my personal opinion, in this game is that he doesn't just do it whenever he wants to. It's not a switch he can flip. He has to jump through a hoop or two to get up to that, like the ramp up period. But once he ramps up, he's just such a monster offensively. He just does so many things. Also, he gets around a lot of things in the game that you need to get around. Like he can move. He can throw terrain, so now you got to dodge that. Or he's got the attacks, the multiple damage types. Like he's got all of the things you really, really want to see a character have. He's got. So I think he's a 9.
I think this is kind of he's definitely not a 10. I think we all agree that he's not a 10. And it's kind of like the Thor argument for he's not a 10, which is he doesn't have the ability to say take 12 damage. Like he can't do that. Mm-hmm. But his average damage is so consistently high and is so easily to apply to people because he hits from so far away. I think that's what brings him up to the 9, is because it's so hard to have MODOK staring at you and not get dazed. Like it's basically people like Hulk and Thanos, like the people that survive his activations when he's trying to kill you, is like those kinds of people. It's just people that just have such a well of hit points and damage reduction behind them that they're going to be able to live through it just because you can't roll enough dice to get him. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why he's not a 10. But I think I'll agree with you guys that he's a 9. I think that's okay. Nobody's going to be mad at us for rating MODOK a 9 on offense. Okay, moving on. We have MODOK's defense. So he's got 14 total hit points, 10 on the front, which is actually super relevant because being able to stay healthy and still contest objectives while on the healthy side for so long is great. His defensive stats are really lackluster, but Psionic Force Field easily makes up for that. And
easily.
Probably more so. Easily, yeah. But then he's got also potential to reroll his defense dice, so they become even more quality than they already are. Anyone who's tried to kill MODOK knows, like, he doesn't go down easy. He's one of the blaster types that definitely just keeps going. Do you guys have anything you want to say about his defense?
The one thing I'll point out that if you've never played against MODOK before, the first time you're like, oh, I have this really cool wild effect. And then you shoot it at him, you're like, oh, wait. That's I think the fact that he cancels wild effects in the game is so ball busting.
It's so frustrating. Because you don't get to do your cool thing. Like, everybody takes models 1 to do their cool thing, and you just can't.
You don't get to.
And he's size 4, so there's so many people that can't even throw him. Like, you can't even get him off a point.
Yeah, he's immune to so many things in the game. Yep.
Actually, I can just flip over here and tell you exactly how many people can throw him. I'm going to check real quick.
So while you're checking, I'm just going to add a couple things here. So the force field and the no wilds, they can't do the cool thing. And also, they're not doing damage. Like, that's part of the ways to damage somebody, for the love of God. Like, you're looking at your dice. Oh, take 6. Wait, only take 2. Or take 3. Like, it's horrible. Also, a defensive stat is also on here as a control stat as well, I believe, because he can move any number of dudes a fuck away from him. Like, that means that most dudes are only going to get 1 attack unless they have a gun, which means they're not moving, so that's usually fine. He's legit. I mean, and his giant health pool can be a problem, especially if you've tooled your list to be like, I'm going to heal him. Watching MODOK go back to full health makes you want to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. So how many people can throw him?
Okay, so it looks like a lot, actually.
Oh.
So people that can throw enemies of size 4 or more, we have Hulk, Drax, Kingpin, Red Skull, Ronan, Thanos, Thor, and Groot. Now, where this gets a little sad is when we look at how many people only throw on wilds.
Ah!
Which is, so Thor's attack, Thanos' attack, Ronan's attack, Red Skull can do it, but that's because he has to inflict damage first, I believe. Let me double check. Oh no, did I read this wrong? Oh, no, if it deals damage, you can throw the character. Yeah, so that was correct. So if Red Skull inflicts damage on him first, then he can throw him. Kingpin can, and Hulk can not throw him with his attack. I haven't checked Drax. I don't know the wording on his thing. I believe it's a wild.
Hulk can't throw
Yeah,
him. That's
throw on
funny.
wild. Yeah, well, these are their attacks that target enemies, and then we have people who could just spend an action to do it. And so we've got Red Skull. I don't think Kingpin can, because Kingpin, I believe, only throws size 3 people. This is actually kind of interesting. I hope this isn't bad airtime, but yeah, so Kingpin's Hail to the King is non-size dependent, and it auto happens. So Groot, Kingpin, Red Skull can throw him, and then Thor, Hulk, and Black Dwarf can do it with actions. And so there are 6 characters in the game currently that can throw him. That sounds fun, and I think there's like 64 characters currently in the game. So less than 10% of the characters in the game can throw MODOK.
It's so fun to be hit by MODOK, too, being hucked at you. Ah!
Yeah.
It hurts so bad.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the rating. So defense, for MODOK, he got a 22.4 on defense, which is obviously because he's expensive and has bad defense dice. He was actually on the lower end of the formula, but it doesn't take into account the psionic force field or his ability to reroll. Do you guys want me to go first with numbers? What do you guys think?
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I think he's at least a 6. 14 hit points is definitely on the above average side, but also having 10 of it on the front, which means he gets to use his better defensive stats. Well, not defensive stats, but his better defensive rules on the front for longer. Psionic Force Field's probably like top 5 most annoying rules in the game. Like, not getting to use your wilds is so frustrating. Like, I have Hulk smashed MODOK probably a dozen times throughout the course of us playing this game. And I've probably done 2 damage on average. Like, it's so frustrating to attack someone losing, like, 1/5 of your total damaging, or sorry, 1/4 of your total damaging results. In addition to not getting your wild effects is just so punishing. So he's at, what did I say, 6? I think I said 6. I think he's at least a 6. I could very easily be talked up to a 7. Parker, what do you think?
I think the ability to make every dice that's rolled against him in the game have one side that's blank. Or wait, how many wilds are there in the dice? Is 2 or is it 1?
There's 1, and there's normally 2 blanks.
So basically, you make every die in the game 3 blanks, and it just so happens that the one you make blank is a wild, which is tied to so many different effects that so many characters count on as part of the reasons why you took them.
Yeah, he's practically immune to bleed. Like, he might as well be. Like, who's gonna bleed him?
I think it's like Drax, I think, has it on a bleed, but that's like about it.
He's immune to flurry.
I think Drax is on a wild.
Yeah, he's immune to flurry.
He's immune to flurry.
Like, he's...
Drax only bleeds on a wild. So does Star-Lord and Zemo and Hawkeye.
Is it Gamora?
There's a lot of people that...
Maybe Gamora does.
Venom auto bleeds.
There you go. So there you go.
Venom is a good person to attack MODOK because he's weakest to physical and he likes to reroll his dice. And Venom doesn't care about rolling wilds. So Venom's probably the best person to attack MODOK.
But Venom's a big spoiler. Venom is a big spoiler for a lot of defensive abilities in the game. So I think...
Sure, yeah, that's kind of his role.
So I like I like saying that MODOK for his stats and that ridiculous ability alone, I want to give him probably... Oh man, it's just so... I hate to give him a 7. I want to give him a 6. I say 6.
Why do you hate to give him a 7 because you don't think he deserves it, or you don't want to give him 7 because that's how annoying he is?
I don't want to give him a 7 because I feel like the NPE of the experience is clouding my judgment. Like, we're like, all right, I rolled a wild, now you can do this thing, and then the MODOK player goes, no, you don't. And I go, oh yeah. like.
So I think we're all in agreement. Psionic Force Field is better than damage reduction, correct? Like, it's definitely better than damage reduction.
100%.
Yeah. So is it better than Thanos' damage reduction? The always one period.
It's almost always one.
I think it is. Because it's a 25% reduction in damage and prevents wild effects from triggering.
So So what are you saying? A 7? You think, Parker?
I actually said a 6 because I feel like my judgment's being clouded by the fact that he's it's such a
we both said 6, but we also both said we basically could be talked up to 7.
Just for the fact of take away almost everything else in the game, you still have to manage 10 wounds. Period. That's insane amounts of wounds. I'll go to a 7. I'll be the guy. Add all the other shit in there.
I'm gonna go up to a 7 as well.
You know what? Let's all go up to a 7. Let's do it.
We're all gonna be. No one wants to be
7
last.
bros. We'll all hold hands and jump
I think
he's designed for more than killing.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
How about this? The justification for 7, he does his shit from so far away, and he moves you away with his mind. Like, he just walks you out of range. Yeah. And so, it's not just that you have to do 10 damage through the reduction in dice effectiveness and the ability effectiveness. You also have to close the gap to do it. So I think that's the 7. Support. He surprisingly doesn't have a lot of support for how much it feels like.
Tactics cards.
Tactics
cards.
Yeah, but moving enemies is more of a control thing. So, yeah, I can fucking hear you. I'm not deaf!
He's all...
Okay, so for tactics cards, we have 2. There is Aim Lackeys, which costs 3 as an active card. Choose an allied character. That character performs a move action in addition to their other actions the next time they activate this round. Which, interestingly, I guess you can play on dazed people. I just thought about if you feel dressing them later. Huh. And then the other one is Psychic Fortress, which is... MODOK may spend 3 power to play this card. MODOK gains cover this round. Allied characters gain cover while within range 4 of MODOK this round. Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's better than Magnetic Refraction because it's a longer range. It costs 1 more and it doesn't refresh itself. But the area it covers is noticeably larger because it's not only in an extra range, he's on a bigger base as well. So that's cool. So support for MODOK. What do you rate his tactic cards at?
I'll start because I feel like one of the things I love about those tactics cards is they'll replace, because they are just noticeably better than a lot of the generic defensive or movement cards in the game. One of the reasons why you may put MODOK in a list is you're like, okay, I really want to have mobility in this game, or I really want to have extra defense against range or both. I really like that he can play both in the game. Like I said, he oftentimes sits at the end of the turn going, well, everybody's dead and I still have 5 power, so let's move or let's all be harder to kill. I think he uses his support powers a lot, but there's only one limitation, obviously, which is they're once per game. So that's the big thing. You gotta value how much is it only going to be useful once per game. So if you're in a game where it's only useful once, then it's amazing. But if you're in a game where you need it more than once, then you're losing some of the value from some other effects you might be able to take in your list.
So, as an example, we rated Venom a 3 on support. And Venom is basically Web Snare plus Lethal Protector, right? That's his support. And Web Snare is more of control anyway. So, I think I'm okay rating him a 3. Do you think he should be higher or lower than a 3?
I would actually say he's a 4. I think he's a 4. And the only reason why he's not a 5 is it's once per game. And it takes up a tactics slot, which is maybe a problem. I guess that is the one. That's another part of the double-edged sword, which is if you're taking him in like a criminal and Cabal, you might not be able to get all his tactics cards.
Yeah, usually you can't afford to take both because you'd have to be playing a single faction roster to justify 2 tactic slots on one character. Because generally you're playing 1 or 2 tactics cards for each affiliation, and then if you also have 2 on MODOK, you would literally have to put MODOK in every list, or else you wouldn't have a 5-card roster. And if you did do like 1 Cabal card, 2 Criminal cards, 2 MODOK cards, well now you're running, and you run Cabal, you're taking, like, literally you don't have any options. Like, you're maxed out.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty close. I'm going to say 3 still, because it does cost you a lot roster-wise, and MODOK is in multiple factions. I think a lot of people take MODOK out of faction because he's so good. And so I think you're not going to get those tactic cards as often as you think you will. But you'll probably get one of them. Jeremy, what do you think?
Just to be on the low end, I hate to think this guy can do everything, so I'll just go with the 2.
2.
Deal
So
with
what,
it.
it's going to average to a 3?
Correct.
Okay. I think 2 is probably closer to correct. So moving on, we have Control. So obviously, Bow to the Will MODOK is amazing. It's actually better than the Mind Stone, because you can use it more than once per turn. It just has to target different people. So obviously huge. Gets to throw terrain around, which is more of just an offensive thing. But stat power, you get to steal power from people, which against some people like Ultron is really punishing.
He also has the power to use all of his stuff. That's what's cool. Is not only does he have it on his card, he generally will do all of this to people. So I mean, that to me earns a point by itself. Like, he can fuel his shenanigans. So wherever he lands, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, being able just to move that many people that are all range 3 short is really a pain in the ass. I mean, that's huge. I'd put him at a 5, maybe higher.
I'm okay. I'm totally fine with a 5. Do you think he's a 6? Like, what does it? What would he need to get to a 6 then?
Further range of control, an additional thing other
don't
than
disagree
just a
with that.
power. You know what I mean? Like, it's a power. He can do that, and he can't throw people.
It is
just
basically, yeah. It's just Bow to the Will MODOK is really what we're talking about. It is really good. Does it get him to a 6 by itself? What do you think, Parker?
No, I don't think it's. I think 1 control ability that is really strong, and there's only one other like it, and it's noticeably, it's worse, and people pay like a whole character slot and character threat points for it. So it's definitely really valuable in the game. So I think that automatically kicks him up a lot, but I don't think it kicks him up to this guy as a control character primarily, which is what I think of when I think of like a 6+. I think this character is going to be a controller. So I think a 5 is appropriate.
I think I agree. 5. I think more often than not, you're not going to ever use it twice, except for very rare occasions, because when are you activating that you've got multiple people within range 3 and none of them get dazed or killed by MODOK?
Yeah.
Like, that's the question I have. Like how is there still 2 people alive in this bubble? And so, I don't know. So moving on, I think he's a blaster. He's definitely more intended to deal damage than control people, I think we would agree.
Yeah.
Does anyone disagree?
He's designed for killing.
Yes.
Designed only for killing.
And for living forever.
And not dying and controlling. All right. So, Jeremy, we have a 9735 blaster for 5 points. Why don't you tell me what you think about that? What's your overall mouthfeel on a MODOK?
The number one most important thing that I'd like to make clear for everyone, and this is 13 episodes in, so everyone probably owns MODOK at this point, but if you don't, for the love of God, buy him. He is one of the most fun things that you can do in Marvel Crisis Protocol. He blows shit up, he manipulates the board, and he is damn near impossible to lose on accident. You know when he's going down, it's happening. He is so much fun, and for 5 points, he fits pretty good just about wherever you want him. Man, I'd love to put, I feel an 8. Like, he is so goddamn solid. He might be a 9. Maybe I'm missing something and you guys claim a 7, but I'm comfortable with an 8.
So I have something very important to say to you.
Yes.
I think an 8 is his floor.
Okay.
So, when you say that people need to go out and buy him, I would recommend the opposite. Actually, no one should go out and buy him. In fact, you should stop buying him because I recently lost a friend to MODOK, and I think everyone needs to be aware of the danger of MODOK to friends you have.
The danger of MODOK. Oh,
MODOK ruins friendships. I will tell you this.
He definitely does.
I remember back in the day, one time when I was trying to kill MODOK, and I think I had Hulk roll 5 wilds against MODOK to daze him, and I lost the game because I didn't daze MODOK, and he killed Hulk. And I remember never wanting to play a game again after that game.
You bowed to the will of MODOK, you son of a bitch.
Jason just played Wolverine into MODOK for the second time, which is just like brain melty extravaganza. Like, he's just like, I'm Mystic too, and like just gets obliterated. So yeah, it's great because he attacks him for a bunch of damage, steals all of his power, and then walks him out of melee range. And he's like, "Have fun in your corner," and he's like, "But I'm Wolverine." Rawr. Like,
Yep.
Berserker Barrage.
Yeah. So I think he's at least an 8. I would initially say he's at least a 9. Like, maybe not at least 9, but I think he's a 9. So just for clarity, other people we've rated an 8 are Valkyrie, Corvus Glaive, Thanos, which might be a little high because he is really taxing on the points, Rocket Raccoon, and Miles Morales. The only other person we've rated a 9 is Shuri. And I'm of the opinion he's on par with Shuri for bananas. Like, this character is, when he gets chosen to be in a squad, he becomes the focal point of every game he's in. It is, can you deal with MODOK or can you protect MODOK? That's the game. And very rarely does it deviate outside of that.
Parker, go.
I think he is there is like gold standard models, I think, in every miniatures game that you stack every model up to this one, and they always are found in some way like relative to that one. And those kind of gold standards, they're called the gold standards because they never depreciate in value. Like, it doesn't matter how many expansions there are, it doesn't matter how many new rules are added, this model will always be a model that you can count on and come back to, and it's going to continue performing. It just never seems to go out of style. MODOK is that for Marvel Crisis Protocol. For that reason, I think he deserves a 9. And I don't know if you can give him a 10, but if that was the qualification for a 10, a model that was never, ever, ever going to be forgotten, you're always going to see MODOK being played, then maybe he is a 10. I'd say the floor is an 8. He definitely is a 9. And I would, if somebody told me that he should be a 10, I would go, yeah, okay.
Okay. I like your points you made there. So another way to look at this, maybe. Jeremy, did you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, I have one more point. Would you feel okay paying 6 points for MODOK? I gotta say, I probably would.
Yeah, there's definitely lists I would pay 6 points for him in. I don't think it's nearly as often as I would pay 5.
No.
But I do think the situation exists that I would definitely choose to pay 6. If they errated his point cost to 6, you would still see him. It would just be far less often. How about the point I was going to make, and I think it's kind of along the same concept that you have there. So, if you had to name the characters better than MODOK, how long is that list? It's awfully short, right? At best. Even if there is anybody on that list. I'd be like, maybe Doctor Strange, maybe Magneto, probably not. I think MODOK's more effective than Magneto. But that's like a very, very short list.
I agree.
So that's one way to look at this to say, does he deserve a 10? Another way to look at it is it okay to make characters better than MODOK? If they printed a character that was just like 5% better than MODOK, is that character too good for the game?
I think we're already asking these questions. I think you've sold me on a 9. I don't know that I'd go a 10 because I don't know that exists yet, but I think he's definitely a 9. I'd be sold on that.
Okay. I think I'm in the same spot. I think a 9 is correct. Parker, I think you agree.
Yep. Also,
9 it shall be.
Also, a little side thing. He's a really clever interesting character in the universe. Like he's interesting. Like he's such a
Interesting.
he's such a weird character. If he's fascinating. People. There's a reason why he shows up in comics all the time. There's a reason
He is quirky.
He's gonna have his own animated show on Hulu.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
The fact that everyone's excited for a MODOK show, like, what is that? It's because he's there's something about his weird appeal. That's another thing that I love. I don't think it factors into it, but man, he's got appeal.
All right, let's blaze through these last two. All right, so next up we have Red Skull, leader of the Cabal. As I like to call him, Johann Sebastian Schmidt. He is 4 points. He has 6 health on both sides. Speed medium, size 2. Defenses are 4-3-3. He has the standard strike that pushes on a wild, pushes target short away. First range attack is Cosmic Blast, range 4, 5 dice, cost 1 energy, has sap power. Unleash the Cube, range 4, 7 dice, cost 4. If this attack deals damage, you may throw the target away short. Oh no, sorry, it does not say away, just throw it short. And on a wild, it reality warps. After the attack is resolved, the target character and character within range 1 suffered the stun condition. So that's pretty cool. You can throw him into a pile of people, and then they all take damage. Affiliation, Master of Evil, Cabal. Each time an allied character damages an enemy character with an attack, after the attack is resolved, the attacking character gains a power. One of the best affiliations for power generation. Obviously, there's a lot of cool interactions with that. Cosmic Cube, this character gains 3 power as an action. Roll 5 dice. For each skull rolled, you suffer 1 damage. Costs 0 power. Master of the Cube, choose this character or another allied character within range 4 of this character. Place it within 2 of its current position. A character can be placed by this power only once per turn. Costs 3. I guess I just realized that you can actually use it more than once. I never realized that. Nobody's ever done that. Then we have Hail Hydra. This character is targeted by an attack. It may use a superpower. Choose an allied character within range 2. They become the target of the attack. Cost 2. So, offense. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people have a bad perception of this character on. They look at him as a purely support character and don't value his ability to attack people, and I don't know why. Because he has one of the best attacks in the entire game, and his attacks are just good. He's above average across the board. So, Unleash the Cube obviously is amazing. It's a attack that throws without needing a wild, and it's a 7 dice energy attack for a reasonable amount of power. That's great, right? And then basically has better than Explosion, because stunning people is awesome. And then Cosmic Blast, has sap power, and people don't use it because it costs a power to use. And I'm so? He's the Cabal leader, and it has sap power. You're gonna gain power when you attack with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just don't understand why there's such a negative attitude towards his offensive output. I think people just don't put him in position to make attacks.
Well, because he can't really do both. That's the problem. He can't really do both well.
Why not? Tell me why.
He uses one
action. Tell me why?
He uses one action to Master of Cube, so he'll gain the 3, right? And the second action...
the action is Cosmic Cube, but yeah. He tries to eat the Rubik's Cube.
There you go, yep. So he wants to do that, and that's one action. And then, so the next action is... Who's within 4? Do I move somebody? And then he can strike, of course. He can do that one for free. He can Cosmic Blast a little bit. But usually the way it ends up working when I'm playing him is he wants to move up and do something. He needs to be somewhere and do something.
I think a lot of times people tend to play him like he's Wong. And so he's a support character, so he needs to be in the back line. But he doesn't need to be in the back line. He's one of the toughest characters in Cabal. He's not obscenely hard to kill, but he has Hail Hydra if you start getting attacked by stuff you don't like. He has range 4 to move people, so he can be up there in the mix a little bit. And so obviously turn 1 you're going to cube and move. But if you practice good positioning and don't use the Master of the Cube as a crutch, I think you can actually get him in position to make attacks and not have to just follow people around moving them. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. Because how many games has the game basically been over and Red Skull's in the back with 10 power on the healthy side? You're like, why didn't you contribute to the game? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I was just watching. It was fun. Like,
yeah, Red Skull is my kind of commander because he's actually for the first time ever, I could actually shoot the gun.
You want to shoot
I
his
could
gun.
actually shoot the gun, as opposed to every other time where I take characters that should not be shooting the gun and I make them do it anyway and lose.
Even if you just follow MODOK around and they're like, oh, I'm going to attack Red Skull, and you're like, ooh, that's like a really good attack, or like Hulk Smash or something. It's like, yeah, I'll just throw that to MODOK, who's going to like take a couple damage and laugh at you. Or I'm going to send it to Zemo, who's going to, because it's a physical attack, going to reroll all of his dice and then some, and then counterstrike you. Like, it's actually, I think, pretty hard to bring him down. Now, obviously, you're not always going to have multiple targets for Hail Hydra, but I think he just needs to be more aggressive in a lot of the games I see him played. Because, honestly, no one's going to target Red Skull. Everyone's going to try and kill MODOK first.
Yeah, Cabal has more fragile, dangerous characters like Killmonger and Baron, and big powerhouse characters that are terrifying like MODOK, so they will often leave Red Skull for last, and he could be, chipping away damage in there very consistently. Yeah.
I mean, just on turn 2, you could be looking at Unleashing the Cube, or even Unleashing the Cube twice, potentially, depending on the situation. Because you do the first Unleash the Cube, you got 4 power turn 1, you got 4 power turn 2 if you use Cosmic Cube again. You probably don't have to, though, because you're up to 5 without it. So you attack them, now you're up to 6. Like, it's... In some situations, you could get like a lot of use out of Unleash the Cube throughout the game if you just don't rely on Cosmic Cube as like a fundamental part of the way you play the game. And it's kind of like Avengers Assemble, I think. A lot of Avengers players would have really bad positioning early on in their careers because they were so used to Avengers Assemble just bailing them out of bad positioning. They didn't even try and get better at it. And so when you stop playing Avengers, you kind of get used to playing the normal way, and then going back, then Avengers Assemble is just icing on the cake. So, anyway, I've talked way too long about this. So, offense, I say he's at least a 6. He's got 2 great attacks. That's my opinion.
He can supply his own power, which is cool. He has the ability to use it. Unleash the Cube is badass. He can use it. His strike, it kind of sucks. But he does have 2 different types, and he does have the best type of attack, which is energy. We've figured that out. I have no problem with a 5 or 6. 6 is fine. He's all right.
I will actually say that...
Parker, give me a number.
I'm actually going to say a 5, and it's the only reason why I give a 5 is he doesn't throw. That's really the only thing. Like, he doesn't have any automatic damage. He's got to roll dice.
He does throw.
Where does he throw?
Unleash the Cube throws. If he does damage, he throws short in any direction.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the Wild for Reality Warp. You're correct. He does throw with Unleash the Cube.
No, the Wild just stuns.
Yeah, the Wild stuns.
But the best part is if you trigger the Wild, the stun happens after he gets thrown, so you're going to stun someone else too.
Yeah, because you throw him into the target you'd like to stun. Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So you Unleash the Cube Hulk, throw Hulk into Cap, and then they both get stunned.
No.
And you laugh at them.
I did not read the first bullet on Unleash the Cube. No, he definitely deserves to be. He definitely deserves. You know what? I think he deserves a 6. Yeah. Yeah.
You said 6 or 7?
I said 6.
Okay, 6. 6 it is. We're moving on to defense. He is a 4/3/3 that can shunt off attacks with Hail Hydra. He has no other defensive abilities. He got a 30 on the defense matrix, but he does tend to damage himself a bit. So I think you have to bake in he's going to take a couple damage at least throughout a game. So he's really got like 10 hit points. So, Jeremy, what do you think? You've played this guy a few times.
He's fairly survivable. Probably slightly more than average. He doesn't generally have 2 power on him when his turn is over and people are beating on him. So I feel good around a 4 or a 5. He's very killable.
I think he definitely has to be above average. I think he's noticeably above average. I think a 5 is probably fair, mostly just because of Hail Hydra. Like, if you wanted him to survive, he's going to survive. He's also rarely going to be their primary target. He's only really going to get attacked if he's already taken a bunch of damage.
That's about right. Yep. Nobody messes with him.
Yeah, he has.
Parker, do you agree with?
I
the
agree
five?
with the 5 because he's kind of got plot armor with the rest of his faction, right? Like his faction just like is so intimidating. You don't usually go for him.
All right, so support. Oh baby, do we have some support?
Yeah.
Obviously, Master of the Cube is a huge amount of support. He also has one of the best faction abilities. That's probably the end of the support, but God, those are two really good things.
Yeah, a Master of Evil, the affiliation Cabal rule, is so interesting. Like I have spent time scouring the game for interesting interactions between characters and Master of Evil. The Master of Evil, as a rule, just enables some characters to go from good to great instantly, just because they're in a list with Red Skull. That's so cool.
I mean, we built a list around Hela just because of her interaction with this ability.
He can do the same thing to Captain Marvel. And there are other characters that benefit from it, like anybody with rapid fire, like the Agent Widow, Punisher, characters that get power just for tapping somebody, like Nebula. There's so many characters that love to have it, and then also, of course, he's in a very offensive. The Cabal faction leans towards offensive potential. And so they're constantly powering their amazing offensive potential that the Cabal members have. It's very synergistic and super, it's not even a knife. It's a damn guillotine just coming right through you.
Okay. So I think we would rate Master of Evil probably a 4 out of 10 just on its own. And Master of the Cube would probably get at least a 3 on its own as well. But on a character that generates enough power to actually use it, I don't know, it might be... we basically have two abilities that could arguably be a 4 on their own. So where does that put him? Does he get upwards of a 6? Does he go higher than that? Is he lower than that?
I was honestly thinking a 6 before you even started with that the way to look at it.
That's where I started as well.
Have you guys tried Master of Evil?
So you're happy with a 6, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just... Has anybody tried the Master of Evil with anybody who attacks 4 times? That's actually like a 3-pointer.
The problem is you have to deal damage, though. And a lot of those... Like, you're likely to deal damage over time, but you're not going to deal damage with all 4 attacks. And also, a lot of those characters don't need a lot of power. Like, they already have power, actually.
I was just immediately thinking about Bullseye. He can just do 4. Like, can he pay for it with all that? I don't know. Just a thought.
Does he? Bullseye. Does he have the auto fire thing?
I thought he did.
Oh, you mean on his big attack? His pincushion attack, his 4-cost attack, does rapid fire.
Okay.
No,
After this attack result, this character makes an additional pincushion attack without paying the cost. The additional attack must target the original target. It also ignores cover and applies bleed.
Yeah, punish.
So you have to deal damage to get the bonus power from Cabal. But then Bullseye's I never miss thing does not work because it's not part of the attack.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Punisher and Black Widow are the best rapid fires for Cabal, probably, because they both have.
Well, you could actually argue that Bullseye could almost power his big attack if you played him in Cabal. But
I was just thinking when I saw that.
I still don't think it's worth it. Mm-hmm.
All right, so where are we at?
Hipfire is cool. I just don't know what you would do with all that goddamn power.
Yeah.
Okay, so Red Skull. Jeremy said 6. I agree with 6. Parker, do you agree with 6?
Yes,
do you
I
think
do.
He's higher? Do you think he's lower?
I actually think he's right at a 6.
You think he's higher?
No, I think he's right at a 6. I like that.
Oh, you agree. Okay. So 6. Got it. So Control. He has Push on a Wild on his Strike, which is pretty meh. Sat Power for Control is pretty meh. Reality Warp is not terrible because it applies Stun. And then, obviously, being able to throw with Unleash the Cube. But Unleash the Cube isn't going to happen all the time. I would probably say a 3. He's got a lot of little parts of Control, which gives him options. But really, we're talking about Unleash the Cube, which is some pretty good control, because it's a throw, and it's potentially stun.
It's worth mentioning that all of his control has a condition. Wilds or dealing
That's
damage.
True. It's all wilds.
Yeah. Or damage. Unleash the Cube's throw is a dealing damage. So which is likely, but not 100% chance. So there's nothing on his card that says, I just control somebody, or I just apply an effect. It doesn't actually happen. And I think that's one of the reasons that brings his control way down compared to some of the other controllers in the game.
Okay, so what do you think? 2? It's basically 2 or 3, because he's obviously not 1 because he has control.
I think it's a 2. I've
Jeremy,
played
this is
him.
an audio format. Please don't hold up a number of fingers.
I gotcha. No, I know. I was just wading through it. He's to me, I've played him a ton, and usually the game becomes somewhere around Red Skull can't do shit about this situation that's about to happen. Because him sitting on 4 power to be able to do that is so rare. It does happen, whatever. So bottom line 2.
Okay. I'll agree with the 2. Parker, do you agree?
I was actually leaning towards the 3 for a moment, just because of the variety of stuff he can do, but I don't like that it's all conditional. So I think the conditionality of it's probably 2.
Yeah, the rarity of actually using Unleash the Cube, which is his primary source of control, and then also its stipulation, and yeah, it's probably closer to a 2 than a 3, but it's worth saying that if he lands Unleash the Cube, it's super worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? I take it back. I'm going to go with a 3. I'm going to round up with Parker.
Okay.
Because if you land Unleash the Cube and you're throwing 1 character and stunning 2, that's got to be worth more than a 2. Like, there's a lot of people that are like little piddly 2s that do basically nothing, but like an occasional push. Like, would we give, like, Iron Man's at least a 2, and this guy has way more control than Iron Man, so I think we have to put him at a 3. So moving on to role. It's basically, is he a controller or is he a blaster? And I think he's obviously, a defender or a blaster. I think he's obviously a defender.
Yeah.
Because his primary goal is to help his teammates win through pain.
To enable them.
Through pain.
Yeah, enable. Yeah, he's like, get up there and fight! All right. So we have a 6'5", 6'3" defender for 4 points. I'm going to change it up. Parker, give me an overall rating for Red Skull.
But the one thing about Red Skull, the only thing that holds me back from giving him an absolutely fantastic score is he does cost 4, and it's weird. You're like, you couldn't possibly give him this huge like menu of stuff that he has and make him 3 points. But a 4-point leader is always just kind of tough. It's always stickier when you're trying to make lists. I
mean, most leaders are 4 points.
I know. They obviously do that on purpose to force people to make hard choices as opposed to the easy mode it feels like when you get 3 points.
The average is actually above 4 points.
Right.
The average cost of a leader is like 4 1/4.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I would say that 3 is such a fantastic premium to have when you're building lists. It's not necessary or average.
Sure, but I mean, of the 2 factions that can do that.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I think I like them as leaders better. But if I'm looking at him as just a character by himself... Okay, here's actually, because of that, one other quick tactic. I don't know when I've ever thought about ever taking Red Skull out of Cabal. You take him because he's in Cabal. He's the leader of Cabal. Therefore, I don't think you can rate him that highly. However... Man, you put some characters into Cabal because Red Skull's in Cabal. Like it's because you're going to get moved and you're going to get the Master of Evil. So I'm going to rate him as a 5. I think he's right in the middle because I don't know if I ever see him outside of his faction ever. But
okay, so I'm going to jump in here. And I'm going to point out that Jeremy just played a game against Red Skull in X-Men. Right.
Would you like me to tell you how that went, in my opinion of this?
Sure.
So, I'm going to put him significantly higher because of Cyclops and what is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, eyeballing him, I've always seen him as a 4-pointer, like, I might be able to get him in a list. Like, he is actually pretty goddamn good with that move somebody to. Or just place somebody 2 randomly. You put Cyclops in there, then you're actually able to unleash the cube. You're actually able to build up power that then others can use. It works really well in X-Men. I mean, Red Skull was kind of born to do that shit. It's pretty cool. I don't know that before.
And then you have both Cyclops and Red Skull able to move people around.
Yeah. So like before that came out, I would definitely be on the original rating of kind of lower. But now, maybe even a 7. Like, it's really good. His ability to just make power and his ability to just to place people and also have a really good gun that if he's not doing his faction shit and can actually be a shooter, it's actually pretty good.
I'm actually very against the 4-point like negative attitude thing, because it's only bad that he costs 4 points if he's not worth 4 points. And I don't think any of us would argue that this guy isn't worth 4 points. Like, this character is easily worth 4 points. Obviously, if you're building a faction in a vacuum and you're just thinking about number of characters you can put on the table, obviously cheaper characters are great because it gives you more flexibility. But it's not like 4 points used to be a lot, but like, dude, there's 9-point characters in this game. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, you can over 2 Red Skulls per Thanos. Like, come on.
How many Red Skulls are in your list? I have 2.5 Red Skulls.
Yeah. Like, I play 3-character lists at 19 points. Like, it's fine. Like, it's no big deal. Like, Red Skull is not the reason that doesn't happen. So, I think a lot of people, again, I think if you are leaving a Red Skull in the back lines and not taking advantage of his good attacks, then yeah, he's not necessarily worth 4 points. But I think that's more of the problem. Is I don't think you're utilizing him correctly. And a lot of people think of him as a backliner, but I don't think that's where he's.
So if Red Skull's not a backliner, and now we have other cool factions to better utilize him, he climbs. I'm willing to believe both of those arguments.
All right, so Parker, what number did you give him?
The first number I gave him was a 5, but I believe, thinking about him as, I need to think about him outside the box that, his Cosmic Cube is like. If I think of him outside the cube, so to speak, then I think the 5 is shortchanging him. And I'm willing to change my rating of Red Skull to a...
There are only 4 characters in the game that got a higher support rating so far.
I would change it to a 6, actually. I'm only going up 1 point. I think he deserves more than a 5, though. A 6. Strong 6.
I think that's correct. I agree with a 6. Jeremy?
6 is good. I can live with that. I said a 7.
Is.
We're good. 6 is fine.
Okay, that moves us on to Ultron, not the Master of Metal. Ultron, also known as Ultron. Ultron is a 4-point character with 6 health on the front, 5 on the back. Speed medium, size 3. Defensive stats are 4-3-4. His strike is terrible. Don't use it. It is a range 2 4 dice, 0 cost attack. Generates 1 power when you use it.
Woo!
Alternatively, you could use his energy blast. That is range 4, 5 dice, cost 0, and generates power for damage. His big attack is Metallic Fury, range 3, 7 dice, cost 3. Can be either physical or energy damage, and bleeds on the wild. He has Analyze and Annihilate, which is a reactive power. When resolving critical results, roll an additional die for each critical in the opposing defense roll. And so basically, your opponent's crits add to your dice pool if you spend 2. Kinetic Field Generator. Choose an interactive terrain feature within size 3 within 3. Throw it medium. It's a pretty solid throw. Cost 3. All will be metal, which is basically irrelevant. When defending against mystic attacks, each wild in your roll counts as 2 successes. Never had that come up, but who knows, maybe. He's fly and immune to bleed and poison. Alright, so let's start talking about his offensive potential. Jeremy, why don't you tell us about Ultron's offense output?
Mild to... Okay, so Energy Blast, we love energy. It's range 4. It's a strength 5. Okay. We like that. He can get his energy pretty quickly to do Metallic Fury. It's got bleed attached. It can be energy as well. We like that. Range 3, that's all right. He's got a throw. It costs 3, which is not... That's not the hot spot, but we like it. Offensive potential, he does have a 7 on his card, which is cool. 5?
Yep. You don't like his offense?
Mouthfeel of a 5.
Alright. Well, as a counterpoint, I think he's pretty good. Anyone that can throw size 3 terrain is relevant. He can't throw people, which is a little sad. But having a free range attack that's energy and does 5 dice is pretty solid. The fact that he can affect the board from pretty far away, and his good attack is still range 3, like, that's pretty awesome. He is functionally gets to choose his damage type when it matters. Multiple damage types, has a throw ability, doesn't have a charge, but has good range. Analyze and Annihilate's not nothing. Like, it's able to overcome the defensive dice spikes, which is nice. I think he's got to be at least a 6. Like, he's got a good throw. That's got to get him better than 5, right?
I wish it was only a 2-cost throw. I like those better.
Sure, but I mean, do you know how many people can throw size 3 stuff and it costs less than 3?
Probably 2.
Probably 2. It's Hulk and MODOK, I believe, are the 2. And guess what they're really good at? Throwing shit.
Well, Kingpin's is 3, I think.
Kingpin?
He's either
Yeah,
2
I think
or
it's
3.
3.
Anywho.
Parker, give me a number on offense.
I actually love that Metallic Fury only costs 3 power, which is actually not nothing. A lot of 7 dice attacks cost 4.
Very reasonable.
And it is not only does it only cost 3, but he's in the faction that gets a lot of power all the time, and his range attack also gets some power all the time, and it's got on effects on top of that. Metallic Fury is a really great attack on Ultron in Cabal, and that's not nothing. Kinetic field generator on top of that. I think just Metallic Fury being such a premium attack for him just such be a power machine. I love that he resembles exactly like he is. When he's in the comic books, he's never holding on to anybody, like Thanos is grabbing people's necks and body slamming them and stuff. He's always just standing there with people raining down bullets and blasts on him, and he gives no shits, and he's just vaping everything around him in all directions, and he totally plays that way. I think he's got to be a 6.
Thank you for that number 6. All right, so moving on. Defense. He got a 30 on the Matrix, which is slightly below average. Defensively, he's average hit points, slightly above average on defensive stats, but he does cost 4 points. He's got a defensive rule, which is mostly irrelevant. Apparently, you shouldn't try and invade the mind of a robot, because it's not very effective. So, Parker, give me a number for defense.
Man, he is just so standard. But this is actually where I think his tactics card has to be part of the conversation.
It definitely is.
So, Age of Ultron is like, I think, probably the reason you take Ultron, because the ability to just come back to life with full health is so strong and game bending when he can be dazed. It basically means that when you play Ultron, if you have that, magic number, is it 8 power for age? Yeah. So if you have that 8 power on Ultron, or you're going to get it when you take the last bit of damage on him before he dies, the guarantee of that means he functionally will live the entire game. It's very difficult to see him die early unless your opponent is messing with your power on purpose. You got to be somebody like Ghost Rider or Ronin to do that. So when he's got to have a foil to not live forever for the cost of a tactics card, I think his defense numbers got to be really high, even though his stats are not that high.
What's your number?
Oh, you're asking me the number? I want...
That is initially what I asked you, yes.
The number I want is... Because the condition is 8 power, and that is steep, and you can mess with it, I'm going to bring him down to
So the problem with the card is, first, obviously, it takes a slot, and because it costs 8 power, you tend to not spend power before he's played it. And so you don't do a lot of Metallic Fury, you don't do a lot of Kinetic Field Generator until you've already played that card. And so it actually ends up affecting his defense more than anything. Or not his defense, his offense output, I'm sorry. So he tends to do more damage later because he's kind of going for broke at that point.
But we're talking about like his defense, right? And we're talking about he'll literally
How about this? Let's just throw the card out of the way. What would you say if he didn't have?
If he didn't have Age of Ultron, I'd give him probably a 4 because he doesn't do anything especially. All Will Be Metal is one of the weirdest and silliest abilities ever.
Yeah, it's the most irrelevant, weird abilities that people have.
Yeah.
What number did you say?
I said a 4.
Okay, I didn't hear you say 4. So where do we put him with the addition of Age of Ultron?
I say a 7.
How much is a second life worth to your defense?
I say 7.
Jeremy, what do you think?
Oh, sorry, Jeremy.
was asking Jeremy, damn it.
You did.
So well, it's a couple things. Number one, it causes people never to attack him or to go for broke. And going for broke against him doesn't mean anything necessarily because the way the dice are. I think it puts him around a 9 for defense, man. This guy's going to live forever, and you need a plan for that, which there's like 3 ways to stop him from playing his card. Or you just throw him off objectives and stuff. You just can't do anything about it. But that's only for defense. It hinders the rest of his game. Everything else revolves around it. It even takes one of your slots, which is usually stupid. Like, that's one reason I don't take him, because I want to take a different tactics card.
Well, but you can take Ultron without playing the tactics card. Obviously, it's going to happen less often. So I'm looking at the other ratings we've given out. We gave Thanos a 10 for survivability. And the only other one, an 8 or higher, is Groot. I think 9's a little high for Age of Ultron, specifically because there are counters for it, primarily through like Judgment and Stun or Sucker or Ghost Rider's Penance Stare. So because there's a counter for it, I would say... Oh, and also I think the Grievous Wounds thing would apply to this as well, because he can't remove the damage, so he'd still be dead, even after he flipped over. Let me double check. That's actually going to determine this a lot, because I think a lot of people are going to be playing that card soon.
I will take it down. I will take it down 1 number to an 8 because stun exists, and I wasn't thinking about that. And stun isn't that uncommon. Everything else is fairly uncommon.
Yeah, Judgment's pretty rare. Stun isn't impossible, and a lot of people that apply stun just automatically apply stun.
I can see that happening.
And it's not usually conditional. So they could just chase you down with their stunner person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with an 8.
Because an 8 means...
I think an 8 is reasonable.
Yeah, an 8 means he has 22 health. I mean, think of it that way. That guy has 22 freaking health.
Mm-hmm. It's actually... I mean, realistically, it's more than that, because you're going to potentially lose some damage when you get dazed with potential overkill. Then they can overkill you when you get KO'd. Then they can overkill you when you get dazed again. And so there's 3 instances of stopping damage regardless of damage remaining. So yeah, that's pretty annoying. Also, you could potentially field dressing him. Like, they actually get you dazed early on in the game. You can field dressing him just to guarantee he'll live 1 turn longer into the game. Alright, so I think we're in agreement on an 8 then. Parker, are you in agreement?
I was originally saying a 7 because I didn't know if it was double his original rating that I would give him without it. But I will say an 8 is fine.
Yeah, I think I have to go with an 8. It's pretty rare a guy can just come back to life at full. Okay. So moving on to support. He doesn't support? Nope, no support. Alright, so you get a 1. And control. So throwing terrain is not control because it's just extra damage. He bleeds, so that's a 1.
Yep.
1. Okay. What is he?
He's a blaster.
Is he a blaster?
I think he's one of...
You don't think he's a
No,
brute?
I think he's a blaster. I think he's one of the he's one of the just like a pylon, right? You just plant him somewhere and he zaps everything around him and you can't effectively remove him. He's just a big pylon.
Well, but that's not a blaster. Is like glass cannon.
Does it have to be?
Like, he obviously does. Well, he doesn't have to be ranged, but maybe more of a scrapper then. I don't know. I don't really see him as a blaster. I see him as more of a brute. He kind of like wades into the fight and just stands there doing his thing regardless of what you're doing.
I can see that then. Yep, I see that argument. I just like blaster because he's usually doing it.
Jeremy, what do you think? We might need a tiebreaker on this one. So the summaries we gave when we made the classes were: a brute is a tank or frontline or someone who's focused on survivability. A blaster is range damage focused.
I mean, he's never punching anyone in the head, and he's probably doing energy blast every single time until he does Metallic Fury, which is also range. I can see what Parker's saying here. I would give him the pylon.
Well, I guess the question is he focused more on dealing damage or staying alive? Like, which is the concept of his character? Like, is he supposed to not die, or is he supposed to kill people?
Well, he's obviously supposed to not die, but he can also be trying to kill people. I mean, if you can go both ways, but then he's gonna die.
Mm-hmm. But which one is like the concept for him? Like Thor, for example, is kind of a brute and kind of a blaster because he does damage and he wants to stay alive. But like the point of him is to go in and kill people. The fact that he's survivable is kind of secondary. And so is Ultron, is his goal to cause damage or is it to survive damage?
It's to
like,
survive.
What is the primary focus of him?
Just survive.
Okay. All right, I'm putting brute then, which I think is correct.
He doesn't murder shit.
But
he does a
he's
little
definitely,
bit.
I mean, Thanos was kind of the same thing. He's like, he's a blaster, controller, brute, defender. Like, what do you do? Okay. So, overall rating, last character, he's a 6'8", brute for 4 points. Parker, give me a number.
6.
Wow, you're terrible at this.
Do you want a reason?
I'm kidding.
I can give you a reason.
I think he's probably closer to a 5. Yeah, he doesn't make a lot of lists, though. Go ahead, give me your
the
reason.
only reason is the ability to say, I will, with 2 tactics cards, I'll live for 5 of the 6 turns of the game. With 1 tactics card, I'll live for 4 of the 6 turns of the game. I think is worth 1 point. Otherwise, he's a solid 4-point character, not a weak 4-point character. He's a solid 4-point character, so that's like about a 5. And then I think his card gives him 1 point actually in rating. But it is interesting that you can just say this character lives for 4 turns, unless you have something in the game that stops me from doing that. This character will be here.
Well, there's 2 characters that shut him down really hard, and in our meta, that's really bad because they both get played. It's Ghost Rider and Ronin, and they tend to get played together. So that's like the apocalypse. Yep. So like you literally can't play Ultron in that game. So which is fine because you can kind of see that coming because if they have both those characters, that's probably their plan.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of unique. Like, that's one of the cool things about him is that no one really does what he does. Like, Ghost Rider's the closest, which is the problem because he's the counter. So if you were gonna play one of them, why wouldn't you play Ghost Rider? Because he beats Ultron.
Beats him like a redheaded stepchild.
Yeah. Especially when you roll Jeremy defense dice.
Poor Ultron.
Just use all will be metal, Jeremy. Just don't die.
Hey, it works.
I think he took like 11 damage from that penance stare.
Yeah.
Is it my turn? I'm giving him a 4 because he's boring.
He's boring.
For 4 points.
That's my problem with him.
Yeah, 4 points.
He's really boring because on that before he plays Age of Ultron, you're kind of just standing there taking damage and energy blasting people. He doesn't interact with the dice very much. He doesn't want to spend power. So it's just kind of meh. Like, you basically have enough power for, like, one, like, good ability. Or, like, one big attack before you get dazed. But after that, you're kind of just holding on to all your power to make sure you don't get screwed over. I'm going to be in the middle at 5. So we had a 6, we had a 4, and I'm going to say 5 just to make it an even round number. He doesn't get into a lot of lists because having a character that requires a tactics card slot is pretty rough on your roster. Him also being only in one faction, and that faction is one of the most numerous factions, doesn't help. But I think he's solid. He does his job. He actually, instead of losing slowly, he kind of wins slowly, like, which is interesting. I think it's really cool because you could kind of send him to a flank because he's fairly quick. He has flight, so he ignores all the terrain. And so you can get to the side and usually win your matchup in a 1v1 over there pretty quickly, and then come back to the middle. And that's about when the game is really resolving itself, and that's when Ultron is the strongest. Because he's basically unkillable at that point if he's still alive. Alright. Well, that is the Cabal. What do you guys think? Did we win?
Did we forget to talk about Cosmic Invigoration?
I mean, not really. I talked about it a couple times.
Did you? Did you bring it up?
Yeah.
I missed it. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's a faction card.
Yeah. It was just when we were going over Red Skull, it didn't...
I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's fair. It's kind of his card, but it's obviously you're playing the leader if you're playing the faction, so... Unless you're like me and dumb.
Also dumb.
I can't remember a time I've played a faction without their leader, but I'm sure it's happened. Funny story. Unaffiliated lists are 100% win rate in Kansas City. A game played in Kansas City with an unaffiliated roster has never lost.
Thank you. Oh, you haven't lost yours either.
And I haven't lost mine either. Conveniently, Jeremy
Perfect.
was involved with both of those
Perfect.
games.
Perfect.
That helps.
I add the chaos.
So maybe the answer is just play unaffiliated.
Seems to be.
Best faction, no faction.
Seems bad.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you had a good time. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
Buy MODOK, for God's sake. This is Jeremy.
Don't buy MODOK. MODOK bad. Thank you for listening to Parker is Dumb, the podcast.
Ooh, that was a good one. I felt that one in
Oh,
my
yeah?
bones.
Mm-hmm.
Right down in my plums.
Is that Eastbound and Down reference?
Yeah. Feeling in my plums.
Deep in my plums. That fucking scene is
Yeah.
probably the funniest part of improvised television ever.
Oh my god, that was so... Have you seen them? Have you seen the outtakes?
They took them like an hour to
Yes.
film that.
Yes. I want to know if you had seen the outtakes of that. Oh my god.
They were just crying.
Watching them
That's Eastbound
try
and Down?
to hold... Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Have
Will
you seen
Ferrell-
Eastbound and Down?
I watched a little bit.
Will
Yeah, me
Ferrell...
too.
Will Ferrell, he guest stars in that. He's just a guest star,
Yeah,
right?
he's the dealership owner.
Yeah. And he has a conversation about 6 inches away from the main character's faces. And he is...
Just
And the whole thing is just so raunchy and weird.
yeah,
and-
it's like about him and how sexual like his wife or daughter is.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Feel
And they're
it.
both like they're ready to fight, and he's trying to egg them on, but
Yeah.
he's being very sexual. And it's like, why? And they're both like looking at him and looking at each other, and all of them are like 3 inches from each other's face.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I don't know what's happening.
they can't handle it. They break constantly. Like they can't.
Yeah,
They can't deal.
they must
with
have
Will
done
Ferrell.
that scene. And every time Will Ferrell's trying to come up with new material.
Yeah, to be just a little bit weirder, and so they
Mhm.
break, and then they just reset it. They go, okay, here we go, and then he does something just a little bit different than the last time he did it, and,
Mhm. And it's
they
just-
can't
they're
handle
done.
it.
Yeah.
They can't handle it.
So is that like mid-season or first season or?
It's season 1. It's like halfway through the first
Really?
season. Basically, so Danny McBride's character is the washed up pitcher, and so he
Mhm.
signs on with the dealership to do some like promotional throw a pitch thing at his dealership to get people into the dealership.
Mhm.
He's gonna pay him like money to show up, and then the other guy shows up, and he's like the batter, but they've had like this long time rivalry from the major leagues. And so they're like literally ready to fight to the death in the middle of this place. And neither of them are willing to like go through with the stunt they're supposed to do, which is throw a ball and hit it with a bat, which is like obviously why you showed up.
Mhm.
And then it like while they're like in each other's face, Will Ferrell just walks up and just like starts trying to incite a riot. And it's like, what are you doing? It was hands down the funniest part of that season. I keep meaning to go back and watch the rest of it. I just always forget about it because it's not on like, I think it's on like Hulu or Amazon. It's not like a normal like thing I go to watch streaming.
Mhm.
That scene, the outtakes of that scene are famously on the internet. I'll post it here.
Yeah. That's one that usually when you see Eastbound and Down clips, it's usually that scene.
Yeah, here it is. Eastbound and Down Season 1, Will Ferrell outtakes.
Just seeing the picture
Oh,
makes you laugh.
Oh my gosh! And his character, like his outfit,
He's wearing
hair-
he's got like a platinum blonde wig on, and
it's
he's got like
so-
these giant mirrored aviators
yeah.
on.
Here,
It's like,
I don't think we can talk about this anymore. You just gotta.
yeah,
Here, I'm gonna.
he's like Colonel. Well, no, don't play it. Because
No, I'm not
it's
playing it.
on-
I'm just gonna
we're
put it-
recording. Oh, okay.
I'm putting it in.
Yeah,
here.
just link it, and then
Yeah.
we can watch it later.
Yeah, but oh man.
Another great comedy outtake is the scene from The Office when Michael tells Jim that he's been dating Pam's mom, and he's just like he's at first he doesn't want to believe it. He's like, no, you didn't. Like you didn't meet her mom. Like what kind of car does she drive? It's like a green Saturn, and he's like, oh my god. He's like ready to kill himself. He's like, I don't know how to deal with this situation.
Have you guys ever tried to listen to Will Ferrell's like stand up?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's notoriously horrible. And he doesn't...
Oh, like just bad?
Yes, very bad. And he doesn't do it very often. He does it kind of because people ask, like, you've got to be funny as stand-up, right? Because his improv comedy is so amazing. And and he's like, oh yeah, I've prepared stuff, and he'll like tell some jokes, and you're just like, that's it, that was a joke, right? Like you're laughing at him. He's like, no, that's actually something I've tried.
That's my best
in front of people. That's my best.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's awful. But his
110.
Yeah,
he's definitely great at playing characters, and
Yes.
so I don't know why people would assume that means he's great at writing jokes.
yeah.
He does have great delivery.
Yeah. I cannot hear the word meatloaf in my life without yelling internally.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, where is she? Where is she?
Okay.
Did they actually say when Angela's coming out? Is it January?
It just says
it is
upcoming.
January. She comes out with She-Hulk on. It's the second week in January, I think. So we're like 4 weeks out, 3.5 weeks.
That's when shit gets real.
I'm really curious if Enchantress is going to be part of Asgard.
What?
I think she is.
She's going to be Cabal Asgard. Absolutely.
You think so?
No doubt in my mind. Cabal Asgard.
You know the thing that's interesting to me now? I'm pretty sure that Wanda and Pietro are going to be Avengers with the rate they're going with the dual faction.
Yeah.
It's going to be really surprising if they're not.
I would be also absolutely amazed if Wanda and Pietro are not.
Who's Pedro?
Which is going to be great because that means Quicksilver.
Oh.
So which means Cabal will have 5 characters split across, Brotherhood will have 5 of their characters split across Cabal and Avengers, which is just like exactly perfect. I spent about an hour today reading background information on Juggernaut.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And his helmet.
He's had some cool iterations.
Yeah, I didn't realize that his power level changes throughout the year. Or the years of storylines and stuff. Like, basically the amount of devotion he achieves through Sidorak, he gets, like, stronger or weaker throughout the time. He's also been a long period of time where he hasn't had powers.
Yep.
Because he's, like, super pissed off the god.
Yep, he's just a god of destruction, so as long as he's destroying stuff, he's happy. But if he's not destroying stuff, he doesn't receive the blessing.
Also, he, like, magically summons his armor and helmet. Like, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, famously, Colossus was the champion of Sidorak for a while. And during that time, just total brain farting right now, while Colossus was the champion of Sidorak, he was considered one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe, like, by far. Because he was already very, very strong. Because Cain Marko is just a guy.
Mm-hmm. You're putting all that power on top of him. Because from what they were saying in the biography, with like it was just on X-Men Wiki or whatever, but they were saying that he's like he's effectively invulnerable except against magic and some very weird forms of energy, and so like cosmic energy kind of stuff. But he also has like Wolverine level healing ability against that stuff too. So even if it hurts him, he comes back. Like they referenced one storyline where he was like basically flayed to the bone by some kind of spell, and he like regenerated in a few hours.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if
cool.
I do not know if in the modern Marvel, I don't even know if Cain Marko is the Juggernaut in the modern Marvel universe, like the one currently.
What's the name? Is there like a name for the current one or anything?
Like just post Secret Wars. I'm not sure. What? That's a good question, actually. What do they call like the current Universe 616? Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just 616. Earth Prime, yeah, Earth 616. So, but it was also Earth 616 before the reset during Secret Wars. So I don't know. Now I'm curious. Is Juggernaut still Juggernaut, or is Cain Marko?
My computer only has 45 more hours of recording space for audio.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, we're gonna have to call it short today.
I think we might.
Yeah, we'll have to do the rest tomorrow. Just slam it together.
Slamma mamma jamma. Wham wham wazzle.
Zippity da!
Do you think that... What the fuck's wrong with you guys? These your new catchphrases?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Shimmy, shimmy,
Wiggy
shlim,
wham wham
shlam.
wazzle. Wiggy wham wham wazzle is not my catchphrase. That's the Futurama version of Spuds McKenzie, Slurms McKenzie.
Oh
He's,
God, where they're eating their
The
own
never
ass.
ending the never ending party slug.
Oh my God.
Slurms McKenzie.
Okay. Do you guys think Juggernaut's gonna be 5 points or 6 points?
5. I don't think they're gonna do too many 6s. That would really be stupid.
Well, it seems like the rate of 6s are increasing.
I can't imagine that be the way to go.
Two 6s in one faction would be kind of rough for like fielding a list.
Yeah.
I kind of expect him to be 5, but
Even
I
if
could easily see them justifying him at 6.
in that faction, the way they're going, like, I feel like even a odd 4. I mean, power levels, Magneto versus him. I mean, it just depends what they decide to do with them. Like, he might hit like a truck,
I think
with a couple cool tactics cards. So who knows?
I kind of think he's going to be a lot more like Black Dwarf, where he's going to be more of like just a brick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, if you get in front of him, he'll beat you to death, but he's just going to kind of wander around and be unkillable.
they got to give him a charge, though, right? They got to give him a charge.
Sure.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Like they have to.
It'd probably be a charge with like a slam built in kind of deal. One of those things. I mean, we have been calling everything perfectly lately, so.
That's true.
Right. So if he's size 4, which we assume he's going to be, because he's roughly Hulk size, they could just give him like a pounce type effect where he throws himself at you, but it could throw like medium.
Yeah.
That could be a really cool mechanic. And that way he could just like throw himself at people as his like charge mechanic.
Yeah, that'd be cool if he could do it more than once. That's like his attack. That'd be awesome.
I don't think they'd let you do
Come
that.
on!
That would be a little crazy.
No!
Oh my god, that would be... But it's just too much. It's like 10 automatic damage. Like, how do you defend against that? You just kills people. Like, that would be too strong.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be crazy.
They could also do a... I mean, you could do like a... This character is pushed and then collides with... Well, that'd just be a throw, so never mind. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to think of a way he could do like a trample from War Machine. They'd have to like come up with new wording, though. Like, place this character... like range 2 or 3, and then any character touched by the template for measuring is takes like a collateral with him or something. Like they do something like that, but it'd be really ambiguous wording. I'd be worried that'd make it too clunky.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just throwing himself at people would make the most sense, because where Hulk gets to place himself, Juggernaut could just throw himself at you, so he's like less mobile but still pretty mobile.
That'd be a big one. A 5 dice or at least a 4.
It'd be, well, because if he's going to be size 4, it's 5 damage.
Yeah, but I don't know that he'll be a 4.
So, like, that would be brutal.
It depends which version they put in there.
Size 4? He's way bigger than Ultron, though.
Yeah.
Ultron's 3.
Physically, he's huge.
MODOK's size 4.
He's definitely...
Yeah,
Juggernaut's
that's true.
huge.
That's true.
He's definitely going to be a 4.
Yeah. All right, before we get started, I'm going to use the restroom and then yell at my kids for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay, when you get back, I'm going to go to the restroom again. And then Parker can go, and then Jeremy can go again, and then I'll go again.
I like this plan. Sound plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
did you find out if Kane is Juggernaut or not?
I found the article. Let me look again.
You're like, that's what I wanted to know, and then just looked at it.
Honestly, it was a ton of stuff that I had no idea what was going on. I can look at it again.
Oh.
Because, like, the current...
It's not just like Universe 616 who is Juggernaut.
Yeah, it is him. Marco
I'm just
smashes
gonna
away.
Okay.
It looks like, he looks like he's currently still the Juggernaut, but I don't know if he's still... Oh, yeah, he got the Crimson... He got the gem back. He's now Siderax guy again. He's his boo again.
Do they ever flesh out the other 6 gods? Like, do they have avatars? 'Cause I know at one point they did.
I do
like,
not know
obviously,
that.
like ancient times, but because when in the biography I was reading, Siderac is one of the 7 gods that used to like rule over like this region of space, and so obviously Siderac is god of destruction. And at one point, they try to build a god machine that lets them take over the minds of people within its range. So it would take over like everyone in this region of space, and they'd gain complete control over all the humans and mutants and everything. and so Xavier helps Marco because basically they invade his mind and take over his body to make him build this machine. And so he's fighting against all 7 of them in his own mind. And so Xavier tries to go in and help him. And one of the other deities, who's like basically the equivalent of Loki, like figures out what he's doing and throws him out. But he buys Marco enough time to like break free of their hold, and then he fights them off. And so it sounded like a pretty cool storyline, but they didn't really go into depth because it's just a wiki. It's just telling you about stuff that's happened. So they didn't really go into depth about the other people or if they had avatars. They said that at one point they did have other avatars, but I didn't know if they are active in the... Apparently they're not if you haven't heard about them. So
no, I haven't heard about the other gods related to Sidorak or like in the same pantheon as him.
Mm-hmm. So is that the same thing that Doctor Strange does?
Oh yeah, like Strange and Magic and all the mystical Marvel characters kind of run in the same, like they're all kind of lumped together in the same mystical gumbo. Multiple dimensions, magical dimensions. It's all kind of timey-wimey, because they don't go into a great detail explaining it. There's not a lot of hard rules about it. In fact, one of the things I'm mad that I didn't mention when I was talking about the new Doctor Strange stuff on the last podcast is that one of the things that's awesome about it is they finally actually introduced some rules to his universe, like things he actually has to do. He's not just a god that can do whatever the hell he wants whenever he wants. For example, he when he uses his powers, like when he does it, magic has a metaphysical cost, and every time he uses magic, he pays for it with like his body and his soul, and he's basically at this point he's saturated his body with so much mystical energies, kind of like background radiation in your life, that he no longer can taste like regular food. He has to eat like just random dimensional detritus from other magical realms. That's the only thing he can actually like taste and eat. And if he tries to consume any other food, he's it's just like ash in his mouth. And he like drawing on like Atlantean blood magic and all that kind of crazy bullshit has, serious physical cost. Like you don't just get to do that for free. So when he does that, he has incredible like physical strain. Excuse me. So so he has all these like different magical techniques to deal with all the physical damage that's constantly done to his body as a result of the spells he's weaving. Because he is the Sorcerer Supreme, so he has access to all the books and stuff. Like he can do all the tricks, but if he does, he also is just a person. So that's one of the cool things about the Way of the Weird is they actually go into. It's not just he shows up, he beats Dormammu, then he walks away. It's like what happens when he goes home, and he's got to like deal with the ramifications of all the bullshit he always does. Also, he deals with problems very similar to actually Dresden kind of problems. Like he can see the mystical realm, right? And like mystical organisms are kind of like surface bacteria all over the Earth as well. The Earth's a very magical like place, so. When he's walking around, like he sees like all the regular stuff, but he also sees everything going on in the mystical spectrum. And so there's just tons of mystical organisms all over the place all the time. And he's constantly policing those as well, and kind of like a white noise kind of thing when he's not dealing with giant dimension monsters. Maybe he's walking down the street and he sees somebody with a psychic leech on their head, and he's just like punts it off and has to smush it on the ground. But of course, to everyone else, he looks crazy because he's not doing. They can't see it, so he just looks like a crazy person. But he's doing, great work, and it's that kind of stuff. Because he's spent so much time in these other areas, he has mystical. His body had developed basically a mystical immune system. So if he like gets a mystical poison in his body and that kind of stuff, he doesn't succumb to it as quickly as a regular person might. Because his body has built up a resistance to it. All kind of like more, not hard sci-fi, but harder sci-fi than the original Doctor Strange. Just, by the vapors of Valtor, and it just just happens.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for the next Doctor Strange movie. I wasn't super impressed with the last one. Thought it was okay, but I felt like they just made a movie about wizards in the universe and not really about Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Also,
I felt like they left off a lot of the core of his character.
they didn't have Doctor Strange is not really as lighthearted and goofy as the Guardians mythos lends it to be, and they just didn't have Taika Waititi to do this fantastic comedic action combo. So sometimes the comedic moments in Doctor Strange just seem really out of place to me. They were just kind of why did you choose to do that right there? That just totally undercut this moment that was otherwise dramatic. Not a bad movie, not bad, but
I actually was
also
watching it
the
earlier
bad
today
guy
because my kids wanted to see it.
Yeah. Also the bad guy, totally forgettable. I didn't give two shits about him ever. Dormammu was awesome. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. That whole scene, that was fantastic. It was perfect, Doctor Strange stuff. But it's not Mordo. Mordo's his confidant friend guy. Who's the antagonist in Doctor Strange? That's how forgettable he is. I can't remember his name.
I can tell you the actor's name.
Yeah.
I don't know who actually the character is.
Right.
He's just a fallen Jedi. I mean, that's pretty much all it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
He chose the dark forces. Yeah, I mean, that's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It doesn't need to be a big person because obviously they're planning these movies many in advance. I don't want it to be like Spider-Man where they killed the bad guy in the first movie. Mm-hmm. And it's well, now what? You killed his main archvillain in the first hour of him being on screen. There was so much we could have done with this, and you just threw him away.
Now I'm curious. Which one is Doctor Strange movie villain? Yeah, Dormammu is the bad guy, but who's Caecilius? That's right. But Mordo is actually a fantastic character in the Doctor Strange universe. That's the other guy who eventually decides that Strange has kind of lost his way and doing the wrong thing. He doesn't know it. The one who's
that's the dude that's played by the operative from Serenity.
Yes.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. They kind of took the comic book version of Mordo and they split him in two different characters, Caecilius and the character called Mordo and Strange. Because the character called Mordo in the comic books is very much a Dark Jedi who also has this big inferiority complex for Doctor Strange, and they don't agree. They don't see eye to eye, but they're not. But he's constantly being foiled by him. So it's they're kind of two versions of the same character.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and get started. You guys ready?
Yep.
Hooray!
You guys are both recording, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
are recording.
I've been podcasting this whole time.
Podcasting.
Okay.
Peace.
You said you were going to do it.
I hope you know that this has been on my list. This has been on my list since we started naming we were doing the podcast names. When you were like, what if we were like Rock Boulder Radio or something? I was like, I just wrote Parker is dumb. That's just the new name of a podcast.
So earlier today, we were actually talking. My wife and I were talking about how we were going to do this little holiday thing, social distancing holiday thing with my brother and her brothers, and I was like, "We give it a name like this name," and she's like, "No, that's a bad name." I was like, "What about this name?" And she's like, "No, that's very confusing for the kids." I was like, "Oh yeah, what about this one?" She goes, "That's just bad." And I was like, "Okay, I'm really bad at this." And I'm just gonna stop now. We discovered this.
Brandon wasn't kidding. I'm really bad at naming things.
I think it's excellent. I think it's of high quality and value.
Well, you would though.
I would rate it as a 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a 2 for me, dog.
I cannot stand. I really struggle. I really struggle with people who name their kid a regular name, but just take out an I and put in a Y. That really bugs the heck out of me.
Oh, fucking! There should be a law against naming your child a name and misspelling it. You should be criminally prosecuted. You're like, my name's Mike with 2 Y's. And you're like, nope, that's not a name. That's just a bunch of letters. Your name is Meek. Like, shut up. Oh my god, I hate that so much. It's like, my name is Sarah with an H and a Y. And you're like, there's no Y.
Oh,
What are you?
he's watching the video.
School children are lining up to put them in the sack lunch.
I can't even
Yeah.
listen to it over fucking Discord.
I want to bite into that floor and let the juice spill down my chin. You know what I mean? All the while.
Jeremy, you have to stop playing it. Jeremy, stop. We'll watch it after we're done. All right, hold. Oh my god.
Down in my plugs.
God, I can't believe you started playing that.
Oh.
All right. That was the video that we talked about earlier, if you were confused. Yeah. Anyway. So, on the topic of names, I've never really been a huge fan of my name, Brandon, but my mom told me at one point that she almost named me Max, which would have been really awkward since, my roommate's name is Max. So, that could have been really confusing because we've been roommates for like 7 or 8 years now. So it's like every time someone wanted to talk to us, I'm like, what?
Max power.
So, yeah. All right. So we're going to wrap it up for today.